Ladies and gentlemen, breaking news. We have some insane news coming out of the USA. Forgive me, Australians, forgive me. I promise you we'll get to some Aussie stories. But we're seeing a crazy situation where time to go. Joe Biden from Obama has said that he must step down as the Democratic nominee as early as this weekend. Donald Trump set to give his nomination acceptance speech to the Republican Party, which we'll be watching together in a second. Anthony Albanese goes to war with the CFMEU. The plot thickens as more details come out to the surface of what Donald Trump's would-be assassin, his background. The Switzerland is having a situation where they're rolling out high-tech $20 suicide pods. Insane. The head of the Secret Service remains completely unrepentant after the monumental security failure they've had. Who was shorting Truth Social stocks the day before the Trump shooting? Trump selects DJ Vance as his new vice presidential running mate. Who is he? Joe Biden comes down with COVID. Is his resignation imminent? Kevin Rudd, as ambassador, finally comes to terms with having to work with Trump. How close do we just come to a war with Iran? Anthony Albanese and his puny tax cuts. How did it affect you guys? And excommunicated bishop blows a whistle on globalist takeover of the Catholic Church. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be live streaming Donald Trump's speech, which is going to go live imminently right now on Fox News. But before we go any further, I did want to introduce our panel, some familiar faces. On the right, we've got Dr. Stephen Shavura, Sky News commentator, and a professor and lecturer at Campion College. On my right, I've also got John Ruddock, the Honourable John Ruddock of the Upper House of the New South Wales Parliament. And on my left, I've got Elvis Sinovic, a former MMA fighter, former candidate, running in this upcoming local election and eventually federal election, which we're going to hear more about in a sec. But to our first story, what the hell has been going on in the USA? A lot of new details have come to light with regards to what's going on with the actual shooting, what the background was. We've found out from Dan Bongino and from other sources within the government that the Secret Service have basically been put pressure on to suppress the details of the shooting and to make any excuse about it. We've got they've basically passed the buck off to the local county police sheriff. We've got a situation where they've blamed a slopey roof for not having people on that particular building. We're finding out that there was actually law enforcement in the neighbouring building there as well. The Secret Service were warned hours before that there was this threat by local law enforcement, but nothing was done. They allowed Trump to go on the stage. We find out more details about the shooter. The shooter was actually a Republican member, which we're going to hear from the panel on about, but he actually donated to the Democratic Party, an organization called Back the Blue. And on top of that, we're hearing from a lot of his schoolmates about the bullying Hispanic Republicans that were actually in his classroom. And we've got a timeline, if we can pull this up on the screen. The timeline of when Crooks, the shooter, was actually identified as a person of interest was at 5:10 p.m. At 5:30 p.m., Crooks was spotted with a rangefinder in his hand, which is used for shooting. At 5:52 p.m., Crooks was spotted on the roof by Secret Service, and 6:02 p.m., Trump takes the stage. So well before an hour before he really sort of took the stage and everything, little under an hour, he took the stage. But before that, Crooks was actually identified as a threat. And at 6:12 p.m., Crooks fires the first shot. There's a lot of people that are demanding answers on this. Guys, just some hot takes from you guys. What did you guys think about all of this and what's potentially happened?
Okay, so in 2003, President George W. Bush visited Australia and he spoke at the Parliament in Canberra. And Ross Cameron at the time was a member of the Parliament, and every member of Parliament was allowed to invite one guest to come and sit in the gallery to hear Bush speak. And Ross kindly invited me. So I drove down to Canberra that morning, and I have never seen anything like it in my life. When you're about 2 or 3 kilometres away from Parliament House, there's helicopters, there's military, there's police, there's big black SUVs everywhere, everywhere, and there's men in black everywhere. It was intense security. Then I see this thing at Butler, Pennsylvania last weekend, and it was like 1/10 of that security for President Trump. Now, he's not a current president, but he is the front runner to be the Republican nominee, and he's a front runner to win. And he's Donald Trump. He's highly controversial. So they should have had similar Secret Service for Trump that I saw with my own eyes with Bush in 2003. Now, why didn't they have that level of security? I don't believe there was a conspiracy to kill Trump last weekend. I do believe what happened was malicious people in the Secret Service, probably the boss, who hate Trump's guts, they just out of malice significantly reduced his Secret Service detail. Now, there's further evidence for that. Look at the malice they had towards Robert Kennedy. The two most famous assassinations in history are his father and his uncle, who got wiped out with an assassination. And they won't give Secret Service to RFK. I think they've changed it now after the events in Pennsylvania last weekend.
That's right.
So that's what I think that they and if they knew that it was going to result in a shooting, they wouldn't have done it. I don't believe it wasn't in their interest that Trump gets shot. Okay, would have made him a martyr for all time. So that's what I think is behind this. It was extremely unprofessional what happened last weekend. It should not have happened. I don't blame the Secret Service on the ground, but there just simply wasn't enough of them.
Look, I kind of I don't fully agree. I think there's potentially malice involved and or a gross incompetence. Either way, it's not good. I mean, there are a few other things that happened. Nikki Haley apparently wasn't going to be attending the Republican National Convention, and then I think about an hour before it was announced that she would be attending the conference all of a sudden. So I think that was interesting. And obviously all the things going wrong with the Secret Service, their communication with the police, having the ladder there, the rangefinder, it's either mass gross incompetence.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Or there's malicious intent, whether it was they planned it or whether they allowed it to happen by not having this sufficient security and protocols in place to prevent this sort of thing.
Yeah, Stephen.
Well, I mean, I probably agree with John, but I don't think it's not a question of whether it was malicious or whether it was planned or whether it was just incompetence. It was both, and we need to draw a distinction between Trump's assassination being something that was intended and Trump's assassination being something that was planned. I think with the evidence that we've got, we can definitely say that it was intended, but we can't quite yet say that it was planned. Now, what do I mean when I say it was intended? We all know that some time back, Biden had a law passed that reduced the number of Secret Service officers that Trump would be able to use. We also know that on the day, the usual Secret Service officers that would be used, which we actually saw in a photograph the other day, basically 6'2" men who have been doing this thousands of times, for that day they were replaced effectively by casuals, women, short women. Now, what I suspect is that these kinds of changes that took place were with the ultimate intention that it would be much easier at some point for Trump to be assassinated. So I think that this was intended, but I don't quite know that the evidence is there yet that it was planned. So it was a combination of both malice and also gross incompetence.
Let's keep going through what we know, because as you know, guys, this is quite a developing story. Every hour we find new information out. So going to some of these slides here, this is just to put in perspective, you know, how close it actually was. This isn't exactly from the actual shooter, but you can see how the angle of Trump's head highly made a difference to being shot through the ear versus straight through the head.
There's a couple of AI videos which they've used to reenact that situation, and it is scarily crazy just how close it got.
I'm going to bring them up. I've got, if you want to follow all the clips I'm finding, guys, they're on X. As usual, Elvis, the internet is undefeated. I had to cut about 20 slides of memes out of this presentation because we wouldn't get through any of this. But here's the Donald Trump coming out and the a photo from when they killed Osama bin Laden in there with the raid. Just looking at and just like, he's still alive. How is he still alive? Basically insinuating that they called the hit on him. Now, as if you haven't noticed, John Ruddick with the patch on his ear, This is where it comes from. People in the Democratic Convention are standing in solidarity with Trump. Many have written "fight, fight, fight" on their right ear with a patch because Donald Trump their leader's sort of been wounded per se. And I'm assuming that's exactly why you rocked up today, John. You didn't.
No, I don't have a story. No, solidarity with Donald Trump today, and
okay, good.
I stand with all political leaders who have been unfairly shot at.
That's very good. Right. Very good. But yeah, guys, look, there's the developing story that's been coming out is Biden saying he'll quit the race if doctors basically tell him to, and that's exactly what we've seen. Now, with regards to the shooter, I did mention a few facts about him. I have seen this photo floating around. It's not confirmed that he's trans. It's not confirmed that this is actually him yet. We're still waiting on actually whether this is a legitimate image, but I'm aware of many of you guys sending this around to me. This is the voter registration of him to be a Republican. John, what were your thoughts on this?
Okay, I'm speculating.
Sure.
It seems odd. I'd like to know. Hey, can we see the date he actually became a Republican? Can we see the date? That's what I've been trying to find.
It's right there. The date vote. It's the 11th of the 8th, 2022.
Oh, okay. Well, I was assuming that he'd registered as a Republican so he could vote. He hated Trump so much that he could vote in the Pennsylvania primary for Nikki Haley. But the fact that he's done it in 2022, it does add to that diminishes that possibility.
Well, no, I mean, they pre-planning, like they know what's going on. They know when the votes are going to happen. They know how it happens every year. And a lot of these parties do jump in early and start planning ahead. Not unlike our election coming up. We've got a federal election supposedly coming up next year, but last year I know a lot of the major parties were already canvassing for candidates and getting things ready, almost a year and a half well before it. So I wouldn't, that still doesn't remove that possibility from it. These organisations might jump on these sort of things to be well and ready, prepared for that sort of situation. I'm with you. I think that's the reason that he registered there.
It's interesting because, okay, he might have registered on the 28th of September 2021 to be a
2021.
2021, the registration date. But he did actually bully many of his classmates for voting for Trump candidates, as well. And Hispanic, there was one Hispanic classmate who was saying, but I'm Hispanic, I like Trump. And he's like, well, you should hate Trump, because of what he's doing to your people.
Well, that's interesting.
So and this is the problem, there's conflicting evidence on this. However, what's not conflicting is the fact that he did donate $15 to back the blue. And, this is he's put his money where his mouth is. And this was in January 20th, 2021. So this is actually before he even registered as a Republican, if that tells you anything. But he did also feature in a BlackRock video as well, which was supposedly showing off some of the good work that supposedly BlackRock's funding. It's funny because we can't really find many videos at all of him online. There's like no social media presence, but we can find him appear in more BlackRock videos than anything. And his father is a behavioural therapist who was shocked by all of this. And I do believe his mum's in a similar field, which I don't know, Stephen, if you have any feelings on behavioural therapists.
I don't see one, so I don't know. No, I have no feelings whatsoever.
No worries. Yep.
I suppose I need to see a behavioural therapist about that.
You don't have to throw them under the bus. Look, the other thing I will bring up, which I definitely want to hear you guys take on this. And again, sorry for this. Is a very free-flowing, guys, and we've got a lot of different information coming in, and it's hard to verify a lot of it. But one thing we do know is that Austin Private Wealth, it was supposedly they tried shorting 12 million shares of Trump's Truth Social via a put option filed on the 12th of July. And this is unclear whether this has actually happened. Supposedly they put this in on the 30th of June, and it was actually an error by a third party that put it through. And supposedly they made a public statement saying, look, that we actually made an error and this and that, and you can't just withdraw a short if you've actually made it. It does sound like there was an error there, but it just, why are the errors all in one direction?
I just want to jump back on a point, just very quickly. That organisation that he donated to, I believe, is one of the organisations that pushed for Democrats to register as Republicans, and the fact that it was done prior to him registering, it kind of also goes along with that theory as well.
I do believe that was a Black Lives Matter organisation, wasn't it?
He was 17 when he did it. He made a $15 donation to Act Blue, a political action committee that raises money for left-leaning and democratic politicians. Now, you've got to remember that to register as a Republican is free. Anyone can do it. So you've got to ask yourself, which of these actions would more likely represent sort of the true nature of this guy, the one that's just free to do or the one that actually cost him some money? And it seems to me that the one that actually cost him some money would be the one that would probably be more reflective of where his views were.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So guys, it's a developing story on that. It sounds like that particular shorting of the stock was actually unexplained, but I was reminded of the fact that when 9/11 happened, the United Airlines also had a mysterious shorting of their stock right before 9/11 attack actually happened, and there was no answer provided, decades after. So a lot of Democrats have been coming out and making the point, this is terrible, violence is never the answer. Obama, Biden, everyone on the news talking about it. But look at this, guys. Democrats look to strip Secret Service protection from Trump if he's convicted. This is on the 20th of April.
Yeah.
This is who we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
Another story. And this person commented, that's one hell of a community to know. A Democrat, there's no room in America's democracy for political violence. I'm grateful for law enforcement's fast response. I'm glad the former president is safe. And my thoughts and prayers go out to everyone involved. The readers on X, on Twitter, have said Bernie Thompson proposed legislation that would have authorized the removal of the Secret Service protection from former presidents upon sentencing following conviction for a federal or state offence that is punishable for a term of imprisonment of at least 1 year. I mean,
well, look. This is a tweet. I'm very glad it has surfaced. This is reflective of what a lot of Democrats feel. Their derangement against Trump is so intense that they just thought, yes, let's decline his Secret Service. Now, I just think it was basically out of malice. If they knew in advance it would result in where we are, they would have said, oh, look, we shouldn't do that. That would be silly. But they just can't help themselves. They're driven by emotion. It's an evil emotion. They're just obsessed with this guy, Donald Trump. And but look, on the put options, okay, I agree it's interesting and it needs to be looked at. My hunch is it's a coincidence, if it's true, and it probably is true. It's an odd coincidence, so it needs to be looked into. I mean, the alternative is somebody on Wall Street, if it wasn't a coincidence, it means that somebody on Wall Street took a massive punt that the Trump social stock price was going to collapse on Monday. Okay, now if Trump had died, would have. I mean, Truth Social has gone through the roof. It's up about 30% because he survived. If he had died, it might have helped Truth Social as well. But the thing that makes me think I think it's 90% sure it's a coincidence. The thing that says 10% it's not is it was a very big put option buy.
Yeah.
It wasn't insignificant, it was huge.
Yeah.
So
and they hadn't previously done anything of that magnitude.
I agree. So, look, there's going to be a major inquiry into this, what we would call a royal commission. Like, something big like this, there has to be. So hopefully that'll be something that they look into.
And that actually just creates more of a, I mean, I don't want to sound sort of alarmist here, but that does actually create more of a motive for people to do away with Trump, because they know that if he becomes president, one of the first things he's going to do is launch an inquiry into how this assassination managed to actually take place, how this assassination attempt actually managed to take place.
A couple more things, Elvis. It was really interesting that there were actually explosive devices found at Crooks' residence and in the car.
And a receiver on the shooter.
And a receiver on the shooter, absolutely. And that we've seen photos of that. And it was really interesting because Nigel Farage actually resurfaced this tweet by Nigel Farage. He found it and retweeted it from 2014. What separates the winners from the losers is how a person reacts to each new twist of fate. I was wondering what your thoughts are on that, especially from an MMA perspective. You win in some and you lose some.
Well, as I said, when you're fighting and, this political battle has become a real fight for America. It's not how many times you get knocked down, but how many times you get back up again. And Trump has shown constantly that he just keeps getting up. They've hit him with criticism. They've hit him with protest, impeachment, indictment, and at every step, he just gets stronger and stronger. And this, again, assassination attempt has done the same thing. It's like it's almost, they've done everything they can to knock him down, but every single time he's gotten back up, he's gotten stronger, he's becoming more popular, his following is getting better, and he's shown that spirit that he's there to fight. I mean, just the way he got up after someone tried to shoot him and raised his hand, fist pump in the air, fight, you know, fight for our freedom. I'm not going to stop fighting. That really showed some great character.
We had this video from CNN. I don't think they get the lesson on the left yet. I really don't think they do. They're still using this explosive language with regards to violence in the president's direction.
He has said many, many times, after having been questioned many times about this, that he's not stepping down and he's going to be the nominee. So at some point, Democrats have to decide that they want to try to win this election and turn their fire on Donald Trump. I think there is, I shouldn't have said turn their fire. I apologize. That was not the phrase that I meant. They need to turn their focus on Donald Trump.
It takes a second to readjust. And on top of this, our own ABC News, who receive $1 billion every year in taxpayer funding, if Donald Trump wins the presidential election, he'll have an army of 10,000 recruits at his disposal to help implement his controversial agenda, the conservative battle plan to give Trump unprecedented power. This is alluding to the brown shirts, surely, Stephen, right?
Well, it's a sign that our social divisions are so furious and bitter that we cannot but see one another now not as opponents but as enemies, and it's just baked into the way that so many think, how so many express political reality. And we've seen it kind of manifest on a few occasions. The Black Lives Matter riots that kind of everyone wants to forget about. The Black Lives Matter riots.
You mean the peaceful riots, according to Biden?
The fiery but mostly peaceful riots that went on for months and months, caused billions of dollars of damage, dozens of deaths. We all want to forget that was the left wreaking havoc all around America. And this now you did have the trouble, the riot, whatever you want to call it, at the Capitol, which was not any kind of attempt at a political coup or revolution or anything like that. And in terms of deaths, in terms of like deliberate deaths, from what from memory, the only deliberate killing that took place was a woman being shot by an inept security guard. And then finally, we've got an assassination. So what we see is that this language of warfare is used by both sides, but it's really on one side where it actually ends in great destruction and death, and that's the left.
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, how many times prior to the election, in this past period, have supporters of the Democrat Party done things like holding up a head, a bloodied head of Trump, or calling for his murder, or putting them in his bullseye? I mean, they've used that language very carefully to kind of target Trump this entire campaign. I'm actually surprised you haven't got have you got the video footage of CNN talking about Biden, how he's got COVID, and if he recovers, it's equally as heroic as Trump surviving the assassination attempt?
I don't have the clip, but I have Joy. Was it Joy? Who was it that said that? From Joy Behar, who actually said that. And that's like, what are they doing? They're trying to equate the glory of Trump shooting and
surviving.
And so look, so Joy must have gotten the actual paycheck in the mail, but I don't think other Democrat pundits have. I mean, people like what's his name, Van Jones. If we look at this particular video, Van Jones clearly hasn't received the check, and he probably knew what was going on with regards to Biden. This is what he had to say.
A bullet couldn't stop Trump. A virus just stopped Biden. You've got the nominees of this party getting their butts kissed. Biden's getting his butt kicked by his own party. The Democrats are coming apart. The Republicans are coming together.
Can I just make one point about violence? Violence is baked in to the ideologies of the left. It is baked into it, and it goes all the way back to Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels' Communist Manifesto. The whole idea behind that Communist Manifesto was to encourage the working class to rise up. And the last couple of sentences of the manifesto are something like this, like, we communists disdain to conceal what our plans are. We openly say that the only way that we can achieve our goals is through the forcible overthrow of the existing means of production. The forcible overthrow, it's violence. And that is just baked into the left. So it's hardly surprising that the left is far more prone to engage in violence than conservatives nowadays. Not even when they lose, when they win. Even after the recent French elections, when the left and the socialists got power, how did the left celebrate in France? By ripping the place up, by destroying the place.
But it's the media that portrays the right as the violent side of the political sphere. It's crazy. You see, like, as you mentioned, it's in as part of their culture. But the media doesn't show that, doesn't portray that. They try and portray it as, you know, a person's right, whereas no, the right side, the conservative side, they're the violent side, they're the dangerous side. That's why, you know, we have to disarm them and take away their rights to protect themselves. And they just don't understand the difference between protection and forcing violence.
Yeah, funny you should say that, John. I was going to throw it to you, John, in a sec. We've got this video that's just actually resurfaced, which is the list of the United States presidents assassinated and the attempts that were actually done on them. And it goes through all of them. Turn the music off.
Always done by Democrats.
Andrew Jackson, 1835, survived. Abraham Lincoln, 1865, not survived, Republican. Garfield, 1881, not survived. William McKinley, 1901, not survived.
Shot by a communist.
Theodore Roosevelt, 1912, survived, Republican. John F. Kennedy, 63, not survived, obviously.
Shot by a communist.
Ronald Reagan, 1981, survived. And Donald Trump, 24, survived.
There's actually about another 10.
Another 10.
Yeah, if you go to Wikipedia, they've got a whole page.
You're joking.
Gerald Ford was shot at twice in 1975. I didn't even know that till the last week.
You're joking.
Yeah.
That's insane. It's like this is baked into the American, psyche and what they do. And
well, look, the truth is, no one's taken a shot at the president since 1981. So the secret, I think, a part of last weekend, that's 42 years. I think that there was a feeling where, it had been so long that their guard was down. To some extent. They were thinking, look, these Trump rallies are always fun and friendly, happy atmosphere. So I think, now for the next 10 years, they'll be on mega alert. Yeah. And this is one of the reasons why the security was so lax on the day that JFK died, because it had been 40 years since, you just mentioned him, Theodore Roosevelt was shot at. So given long space of time, people just sort of put that. The Secret Service would have just been doing their job, saying, we've done this a million times, nothing ever happens. And then when something happens, it's a big shock.
So supposedly, sorry, just some facts. Supposedly, what's her name, Jill Biden, she was actually in a nearby area, and she was actually draining a lot of the Secret Service.
Well, yeah, they tried to claim it didn't affect the Secret Service at all, but naturally they're splitting their force. But on your point, John, yes, I understand your point about being lax. There hadn't been a legitimate assassination attempt in that time. But once they saw something, it should have changed on the spot. Like, I understand, you're relaxed, you're not expecting something, but as soon as something untoward starts happening, wheels should be going into motion, and they didn't. They really didn't. And then that's...
Well, the Secret Service...
And that lax really doesn't explain that.
Well, except for the DEI hires, which is appalling, I thought the Secret Service did a pretty good job on the moment. Within about 2 seconds after the shot, someone said, Trump, they said, down, down. Trump goes down, they jump on top of him. I thought the guys in the immediate presence did a pretty good job, except for the DEI hire.
I agree on that point, but those shots should never have got off. Let's be honest.
Of course. It's appalling. A lunatic had been lurking around for an hour. He was on their radar, and he gets within 150 yards of Trump. It's just unbelievable.
Let's point out that the shooter the Secret Service that shot the shooter was on a sloped roof, shooting towards another sloped roof.
So it is possible.
This is the thing. I mean, an actual conspiracy is not implausible. There's a difference between something being plausible and something being very probable or obviously the case. And right now I'm at sort of this was something that a lot of people wanted to happen, and the conditions were set in place so that eventually it would make it quite likely that it would happen. But you can't rule out an actual conspiracy given what we know was taking place in the hour leading up to that event. You take a very confident person to say, there's no possible conspiracy at all.
And then we should also differentiate between asking questions and a conspiracy. Asking questions should never be considered a conspiracy. If there is anything that kind of makes you think that this could be plausible, it shouldn't be a conspiracy. It should be legitimate questions, and they should be allowed to ask, and they should be looked into.
Yeah, look, I mean, I have no problem with the word. The word conspiracy has a bad rap. You know, the conspiracies happen all through history. When you study ancient history, you have to study the Catiline conspiracy, an attempt to overthrow the Roman Empire, or overthrow the
Republic.
The Republic at the time. So, I mean, what we don't want to fall into a sort of groundless or very far-fetched conspiracy theories. But conspiracy, like, you'd be a fool to deny that conspiracies don't happen on a regular basis.
But again, this is part of the left using terminology to lump together what we call theories and actual conspiracies and questioning into one group so they can dismiss it. I mean, and that's, as we mentioned earlier, the left's use of language to control the narrative. So we've got to keep that in mind. Questions, conspiracy are fine, but they will add the word theories so they can lump it in with lizard people, flat earth or whatever, so that they can discredit you and they don't have to listen to your questions or what's going on. And sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, John.
The best definition of a conspiracy is simply a concealed plan.
Yeah.
Okay, so if under that definition, there's a million conspiracies happening in Sydney today. Okay, but if there was a concealed plan to have Trump taken out last Saturday, it means that the shooter was in on it. Now, this shooter, we don't know much about him, but we know a bit about him, and he certainly does strike us as a lone deranged nut. That's what he certainly comes across as. So I don't think that if there was a grand conspiracy, that they would have used this nut. I also think if there was a grand conspiracy, they wouldn't have missed. Okay, so I think that there was, as Stephen was sort of indicating, look, we've seen the Democrats try to propose legislation to deprive Trump of any social security. We know what was in their heart. If there was a conspiracy, it was a soft conspiracy in that they reduced his Secret Service to a significant extent, and there was only one hope, there was only one motive they had for that, which was to sort of encourage a nut to go and do it.
I'm going to disagree on one point you made there, John. I mean, that was very well elucidated. I don't think the shooter had to be in on it for a conspiracy. Okay. He could have been manipulated. You can have a third party, and it's been shown many times in history where they've done that. They manipulate someone to act in a certain way, whether it's used through psychology, through drugs, through repetition, to think a certain way, to act in a certain way, and then allow it to happen. That doesn't mean he was in or aware how they were using him, but he still could be used, and it would be a legitimate conspiracy.
One of the things people have been talking about more recently today is this story about there being someone on the water tower. If you guys haven't seen anything about that.
I have. I've got a couple of...
Yeah, but I can't see any videos of it. I can't see anybody pointing to the water tower. Now, prior to the shooting, there's plenty of videos of people saying, he's got a gun, he's on the roof, what are you doing? Very good people. Now, they were putting themselves at risk because the shooter could have turned around and shot them for warning the cops. So they were heroic people. But there is, from what I can see, I'm open to it. This thing about the water tower, it sounds like the grassy knoll to me. What's going to happen is there will already be people out there writing books about this. There's going to be a new cottage industry, and people are going to write books, but there's probably going to be 10 books written, and 2 or 3 of them are going to make the authors millionaires. That's what's going to happen.
Just a quick one on that water tower. It wasn't that someone was seen on the tower. That's how it's come about. It's looking at footage of the bullets that missed Trump. There were some that apparently hit the railing and some of the people in the stand. And by looking at the angle of those shots, they've suggested, again, it's a theory, it's not definite, that there possibly could have been a second shooter on the water tower. So that's where that idea has come from, that questioning. Not because anyone saw him, not because there was something there, but looking at the footage, there's some footage on X and I'm sure a few other platforms.
I've got some of it here.
Which actually shows the bullets hitting the balustrade, and they use that to say it had to come from a particular angle.
And if you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
All right.
So supposedly that's a black figure there on the tower when this happened, and it's all going down. And they actually took this from Milk Bar TV's one.
Wow.
So the guy that did all the different angles, which I'll bring up.
He's great.
And supposedly that on one of those, that was where they found that. I'm trying to find the full, but everyone's been like, hang on, what the hell is going on with all this? I'm trying to find exactly where I found this, and it's not completely implausible. I mean, I was looking at the actual angle of the water tower and where Trump was gesturing. See, Trump's there, he's facing the crowd, and he's gesturing at this particular screen, and the water tower is well above the screen up there. And I thought, look, well, if he's turning right, it is possible that the ear, where his ear was, it actually did go through it like that. But again, look, maybe it was another Secret Service person. Maybe even that Secret Service was the one that killed Thomas Crooks. We don't know. This is a cry for more information, and every day we're getting... no one knew there was someone on the tower. That really only came out in public knowledge really now. It's come to the surface. But that, who knows? It may have been one of the good guys. It may not have been. I don't know.
Again, it just raises more questions, and this is why it needs to be looked in.
In terms of Crooks' motives, it's hard to believe that if the media didn't have some strong evidence that he was doing this from a right-wing motive, that they wouldn't have come out and said that very, very strongly with plenty of evidence right from the beginning. That is, if there was good reason to think he was obviously doing it from a right-wing motive, the media would have been all over that straight away. The fact that they just haven't really offered that much on that particular issue suggests to me that there isn't that much or any evidence that he was doing this from a right-wing motive, and all the good evidence that we have suggests he was doing it from a left-wing motive, and so the media don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, look, guys, we can speculate till the cows come home. I think in a week we're going to have a lot more information about the shooting and what happened with all this. The Secret Service, this whole cover-up, supposedly Biden's administration have actually pressured the head of Secret Service to be like, shut this down, suppress this, which is why many of these people, many of them are going to Dan Bongino, who used to be in the Secret Service, and he is really annoyed with some of these people saying, why don't you go on record? Why don't you put your name on the line? This is worth it. I mean, everyone in Congress wants the Secret Service to be secure because they all think they're going to be the president one day. The idea that they're not going to work to actually get some improvements and their version of a royal commission into this, an inquiry, is asinine. But more interestingly, what do the Democrats have to gain from all of this? And before I go on, guys, for all of you listening on Instagram that are a little bit frustrated because it's only portrait, come over to X. There's hundreds of us watching live right now. Over 200 last I checked. Go on to X. Go right now. Go to Twitter. Click the link in my bio. Go over there. You're being censored on these other pages. And last time I did a live stream, we reached 2,000 people on my only 5,000 follower Twitter account. So go on to X. We're not being censored there. Retweet it if you're listening on Twitter. Now, to the breaking news that I started the show with before, guys. Joe Biden the story has come out that he could resign as soon as this weekend. This isn't from Joel Jammal. This is actually from Newsmax, and this is exactly what was actually said on Newsmax, where
Carl, according to multiple Democratic sources, this is happening all of a sudden. Everyone said it would happen gradually and then all at once, and that's what's happening. According to my sources, President Biden has agreed to step down as the Democratic nominee.
Oh, man.
It will happen as early as this weekend. A speech has been drafted for him. He will continue on as president, is his intention. He also will not, I'm told, endorse Vice President Harris as his successor. They're hoping that he will endorse an open process in which the convention will be open to Vice President Harris and a few other candidates in Chicago to pick the Democratic nominee for president. The belief is that Vice President Harris is already looking at potential running mates to go to Chicago with a full ticket, including one possibility, Andy Beshear, the governor of Kentucky, and perhaps the governor of Pennsylvania, Governor Shapiro. Other possible candidates who are being talked about include Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, perhaps Gretchen Whitmer, and again, the vice president running. On the first ballot, the regular delegates would be allowed to vote under this agreement that's being talked about amongst the president and high-level Democratic officials. The regular delegates would vote on the first ballot. If there is no winner in the first ballot, the so-called super delegates would be allowed to vote on the subsequent ballot. This decision was reached, I'm told, all of a sudden because of the high-level pressure from Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, and others, and as well as the decision of many of President Biden's top aides that there was no path forward for him, that he would not be able to win this election, win the general election, and therefore he's stepping in.
John, can you explain your not only your take, but this whole superdelegates thing, which I think the audience would appreciate?
So that clip we just saw was on Newsmax. Newsmax is to the right of Fox News in America. Now, why would they have this big breaking news? Well, I'll tell you why. The speaker was Mark Halperin. Mark Halperin used to be a really big deal at the Washington Post, which is very much part of the liberal establishment. And he got Me Too'd out of the Washington Post, so he's ended up on Newsmax. So the point of that story is to say, what he says is, I think we can probably bank it. It's probably factual. That means Biden's gone this weekend. Now, he might have a change of mind because, Joe and Hunter and Jill might change their mind. But it's looking... Look, when I went to bed last night, to put the favourite to be to put $1 on Joe Biden to be the Democratic nominee paid about $1.35. I wake up this morning, $1 on Joe Biden to be the Democratic nominee now pays $8. So that basically tells you it's over and out for Joe Biden. Now, Joel asked about what the superdelegates are. So in about a month, 3 weeks, we have the Democratic National Convention.
Yeah, 19th to the 22nd of August, which we'll be covering.
So the viewers will remember we had the primaries earlier this year. Now, they weren't very dramatic primaries because there was Joe Biden and just two other candidates. They didn't want RFK to run because he might have won, but they didn't have any debates. But Joe Biden officially won the primaries. And all those, what those primaries actually really are is they are an election in every state, in the Democratic Party in every state, to say who are our delegates to go to the National Convention. And they all voted for pro-Biden people to go to the convention. Okay. Now, but the superdelegates are people who aren't elected to the convention. They are people who get a free pass there. People like governors, former presidents, sitting senators. I think there's a large number of them. I think it's about sort of 700 out of about 4,000 delegates. Now, what they have said is, because they want to pretend that it's a democratic process for whoever the candidate is that they end up with, which I think good chance will be Michelle Obama. No one agrees with me, but we'll see. So the superdelegates, it's not really democratic that they have a vote. And Mark Halperin's sounded like a very well-sourced leak, was saying that they won't be voting in the first round, but they will be voting in the second round. And I believe the superdelegates are basically controlled by Barack Obama, and I believe that they will, at the end of it all looks like chaos right now, and it may well be chaos. But if it is a concealed plan, as we were talking earlier, I believe they'll end up with Michelle Obama.
This brings up two things. One, I mean, if Biden won't endorse Harris,
that's right.
I think it just shows that she's a DEI pick. Just had to put that in.
Yes.
The question I had, which hopefully you're familiar with, is they mentioned that they have a ballot. So does that mean they can only vote for the candidates on the ballot? So would that mean we would know in advance who's on the ballot? Because I'm with you. I think Michelle is probably their best option moving forward, but does she have to be on a ballot? And if she's on that ballot, would we know about it?
The thing about these rules is it's rules schmools. They can rewrite the rules. They can do whatever they want. Okay, they have a meeting. There's sort of a meeting going on informally at the moment. They have a rules committee meeting just before the actual convention, and the powers that be, which is the Obamas and David Axelrod, and the Clintons and the Obamas are best buddies these days. They will organise that. If they do have a preferred candidate and a preferred outcome, they will organise the rules so that if Michelle wants to run, she may run. Now, if Michelle doesn't run, I think she'll run in 2028. I think she's going to be making a calculation, what's our best bet. Look, I used to think it would be Gavin. I've been thinking for 4 years they're going to get rid of Joe Biden because he's in such a bad state. And I used to think it would be Gavin Newsom. But about a year ago, I came to the view, I said, look, if they get rid of Joe, then Kamala's going to want to step up, and she's, a black female. So how are they going to bump her off for Gavin Newsom? That's when I thought, okay, maybe they'll go Michelle. So I looked into her life story.
Yeah.
Well, the fact that Biden isn't going to endorse Kamala Harris makes Michelle Obama very plausible. I mean, what does he have to lose by simply endorsing the vice president? Nothing really. So why wouldn't he do it? Maybe because there's another plan cooking.
He might, yeah.
And obviously he's very close to Barack, and so it may make a lot of sense that in actual fact the plan is that Michelle's going to come in. The last polls I was looking at this morning showed that out of Kamala Harris and Michelle Obama has a better chance of beating Trump. And if, look, at the end of the day, they will pick whoever they think has the best chance of beating Trump. That's it.
Yep.
And the polls do consistently say that is Michelle Obama.
Yep.
Now, but there was a poll out 2 weeks ago saying Michelle beats Trump 50-39. But that poll today that you mentioned showed Michelle's in the best position, but I think she's still only level with Trump.
Yeah.
So
she's just
there's not much polling on Michelle.
Yeah.
If it's 50-50, the polling, I don't think Michelle will jump in. Barack's going to say to her, look, Michelle, if you run and lose, Trump's going to be able to walk around saying, I beat the Clintons and I've now beaten the Obamas.
Yeah.
So I think Michelle will run if it's looking likely that she'll win.
Yeah. Can I just quickly say, in the time that we've been talking since I said everyone go to X, it's doubled. There's 400 people on X now. Right. Guys, if you're on the other platforms, come to X. There's 1,000 of you on the other platforms watching live right now. Get off these platforms. Get over here. Go follow all of these guys, which I'll be sharing at the end of their actual tags. We need to get you onto X, off these platforms, onto my Rumble as well, so that we can't be actually censored. But I just want to say a huge thank you to you. What we're waiting for right now is I've got an eye right now. If we can bring up just the image, we're listening to. I'm watching all of these dances in Milwaukee, just basically this whole time waiting for Trump to come out. In America right now, it's roughly about 8:30, 9 o'clock now. We're getting late into the night. Trump is going to imminently step on stage. I don't know exactly when, but I can give you a certainty it is within the next hour, so maybe even the next 30 minutes. So stay tuned. I will put that up as soon as we have it. But if you're listening, give this a share, get it out there. We're going to bring Trump up as soon as he comes on to accept the nomination. He'll probably speak for 30 minutes to an hour. But moving on, just to make sure you guys get this. If you didn't catch it from what John was saying, just like in 2016, what they did to Bernie Sanders when I was actually a Bernie bro back then, and I was supporting him. I saw how the delegate process was completely scammed and twisted. I saw exactly what happened with regards to the super delegates that Hillary was winning more of, but Bernie was kicking her ass with a lot of different votes. And it wasn't proportionate. Bernie won something like 16 million votes in the primary, and Hillary won 21 million, but there was all these skewing of the debates, with the questions being leaked out to Hillary Clinton from Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the chair of the Democratic Party at the time. I remember all this stuff, case in point, because I was backing Bernie at the time. I was a
really?
I was a Democratic
there's
socialist.
A confession, viewers.
Many. You look, some of the viewers would be like, "Oh, you're saying it again," but no. Look, I was a Democratic socialist. I was actually better. I was a big fan of the Black Lives Matter before it became popular.
All the priests.
But this is the thing: 10% of Bernie Sanders voters ended up voting Trump because there is an element
anti-establishment,
authenticity. This was before Bernie got his third house once he sold out to Hillary, and he stopped criticizing the millionaires and billionaires. He just said the billionaires because he became a millionaire. But yeah, look, I follow the same path of, Tim Pool and someone that, Dr. Shaviri, you've been following for a while now. And there's a sense of it's not about left and right. It's about establishment and anti-establishment. And I think that's why people get annoyed when they see people like Nikki Haley tying themselves to Trump, because there's a sense of inauthentic smiles and a policy. And now she's speaking at the convention, as Elvis said before, in an hour she was talking. But going back to what we were talking about with regards to the presidential nominee, we've got to give credit where it's due. And Vivek Ramaswamy actually nipped it in the bud in this particular debate clip months ago.
To be your nominee. We know.
Sorry, give me a sec, guys.
I also want to close with one message to the Democrat Party. End this farce that Joe Biden is going to be your nominee. We know he's not even the president of the United States. He's a puppet for the managerial class. So have the guts to step up and be honest about who you're actually going to put up so we can have an honest debate. Biden should step aside, end his candidacy now, so we can see whether it's Newsom or Michelle Obama or whoever else.
All right,
just tell us the truth so we can have an honest debate.
Wow. And there were clearly signs. I mean, we know that they didn't commit to a vice presidential debate because they said it wouldn't be fair. We don't know who's the vice president yet. Nominations haven't concluded. And it's like they were always intending on doing this, but they were keeping their options open until the very day Trump accepts the nomination, which is right now.
I mean, I guess, do we know they were always intending on doing this? I mean, let me put out a counterfactual. Let's say Biden wound up doing quite well in the last debate. Would we be having this conversation?
No, I reckon that was an audition.
Yes, I think you're right. So it was always on the table. Look, I think what the best case scenario for the Democrats would have been that they could run Biden again. He went for the debate, and as you say, that was the audition. He flunked, and so it's plan B. So I guess, it's always been on the table that they would do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. I don't think it was definite was going to happen, but that debate really cemented their position. They obviously had two choices, and they needed, that's why they called that debate earlier, because they needed to make the decision early enough. And that's why suddenly the left-leaning media and CNN started calling for the change, when previously, when he did things like that, they dismissed it and called it manipulation and conspiracy theory. But now all of a sudden their tack changed entirely. So, I agree with you. It was on the table, but it wasn't definite until they had that debate.
I mean, this is the thing, though. How plausible is Michelle Obama as a candidate? I mean, surely a lot of Americans are just going to say, why Michelle Obama, other than you think she can win an election?
Okay, so when I looked into Michelle Obama about a year ago. And I typed into Google, Michelle Obama 2024, and I came across this film that a guy in California had made called Joel Gilbert, and he made this film called Michelle Obama 2024. I watched it twice, and I thought, okay, this is extremely well researched, and what the thesis of it is Michelle has written 2 autobiographies, okay? These egomaniacs can't help themselves, like a husband. Now, but then Joel Gilbert went down to her hometown of Chicago and spoke to her mother, her school friends, her school teachers, her ballet teachers. He really did a deep dive and found out a very different story to what Michelle had told us in her biographies. The truth is, Michelle Obama is an acutely political person, and she has been since the cradle. Her father was a reasonably senior person in the very corrupt Democratic Party machine that's been running Chicago for about 100 years. He was paid by the government to sort of do party affairs for the Democrats. Michelle Obama's best friend growing up was Jesse Jackson's daughter, who just lived around the corner. Jesse Jackson was the Barack Obama a generation ago, a black guy, charismatic, good speaker, who almost won the Democratic nomination. So she's been extremely political, but then what happened was, and she married Barack because she thought this guy could be the president, which he was right about that. Now, when the Obamas first burst onto the scene, one of the very first things when I first saw Michelle Obama, I thought she was exceptionally good looking. But then I heard her open her mouth, and she said, after Barack had won a primary, she said, For the first time in my life, I've been proud of my country. And that's when we knew she was a left-wing extremist, okay? Okay, because she basically hated America. The only thing that's good about America is her husband wins a primary, okay? So we knew that she was very hard left. Now, then after that, the Obama team said to Michelle, hey, Michelle, shut your mouth, don't talk about politics. Let's pretend all you care about in life is you want to be a great mum and a great wife. And that's the perception that is now out there. However, if you see what she does, do you know what her full-time job has been for the last 2 years? George Soros gave her about $30 million to be the head of this organisation that walks around the ghetto and poor places and gets people who are likely to vote Democrat, gets them to register to vote. That's the most partisan thing you can do in America, and that's what Michelle Obama's been doing. So let's see how it unfolds in the next few days.
Mm. So that's the thing. It kind of reminds me of, this is going to be, you're going to think I'm drawing a long bow, but the voice referendum, where opinion in favour of the voice was quite high before people actually knew anything about it.
Yes.
The vibe.
Exactly. And so you might find something very close to that again, that no one, as John said, no one knows anything about Michelle Obama, other than that she's a good mother and a good wife. And that's wonderful stuff. But the more, and of course, the Republicans will have their file, and they're just waiting to pull the trigger. Oh, no, look at the language I just used. They're just waiting to push the button. Oh, did it again. They're just waiting to do something to release all this information as soon as she's announced as a candidate.
Yeah.
They're ready for it.
Yeah, it is astonishing. It's like if you get into bed with the right person, then you can run for president. You know, it's just like, isn't that a shock?
All these sinful metaphors we're using. What is this?
No, well, I think you're right, Stephen.
You're a bad man, Steve.
They recognise if Michelle could have contested, if she wanted to be the president, she could have contested.
Sorry, guys. I think President Trump is walking out now. This might be a false alarm. I am just watching.
Let's watch the lead up.
Oh, here we go. Oh,
it's good that it's live music and not audio, because it might get me nuked in some place. Okay, here's getting on stage, ladies and gentlemen. Reshare it. This is the time you've been waiting for. We've been filling up until this point. I knew they were late, which is why I started the stream late. So President Trump is officially accepting his nomination. That's my understanding. And we're going to see a situation where he actually gets up and probably speaks for an hour. This is his first really, really formal speech. He did speak another time. I didn't see his comments. But, yeah, this is really his first formal speech.
Is that a My Pillow on his ear?
It is.
I was about to say, his bandage is much better manicured than yours, John. I'm sorry to say it. It doesn't cut it.
I'm a cheap imitation.
Yeah, that's... I love it.
And always wearing that red tie, as I mentioned earlier. I was looking for my red tie and realised they didn't have any in my closet because of Labor have ruined red ties for me.
Now let's hope Melania comes out. We haven't seen her all week.
Yeah, supposedly that was a security thing. I was reading an article about that. Her and her son, Barron. But I saw some great memes about this pillow thing on his ear. Like when you order a pillow on Temu.
That's right. They're calling Barron the future emperor.
All right, guys. You know what? We'll be right back.
Oh, look who it is.
Hulk. I got to turn this off because of the audio, guys. Sorry. I will keep track of this. Sorry. Maybe I didn't bait you into that. I thought he was walking out as if it was MMA. But anyway, look. I did want to show you this video because a few people have been sending this to me live while I've been on. And please do send me stuff, guys. You can send me stuff at joel@thearkpodcast.com, joel@thearkpodcast.com. This is the moment Donald Trump actually had the shot go through his ear. And you can see that hole, which is what I'm going to show you right now. Here you go. And give it a sec.
I see something that said, take a look what happened. Take a look what happened.
Check out there.
There it goes.
Go for it. Boom. Shocking. For those of you that were saying, oh, it's fake and this and that, there you go. There's another angle. And here's a great meme from Netflix. See, this is the thing. The internet is undefeated. You can't beat it. I got so much of this stuff.
I've seen a meme with a lefty wearing a mask from the COVID era saying, what's the point of a face bandage?
Honestly, I've just got too much. I've got too much stuff on my feed. It's nuts. If you want to see this random stuff, I don't leave comments. I just repost on my Twitter. I'm still getting the hang of it, but yeah, guys, the amount of information that's there is nuts. I did want to go back to I'm feeling a little bit more, guys, but some of you haven't heard about this. I did want to go back a step to the diversity, equity, and inclusion topic. Microsoft actually laid off a DEI team, and its lead wrote an internal email blasting how DEI is no longer business critical. On Sunday, I did a live stream, and I played a video which actually showed that they are trying to get 30% recruitment of women into the Secret Service. I was shocked when I saw that. I was like, of all the institutions, that is not the one to be messing with. And it was really interesting, wasn't it, that when Biden's been walking around, he never has women in his Secret Service team. It's always tall, white men.
Well, yeah, because, you know, reality hits hard. And we saw that just the other day. One of the women who was supposed to protect Trump came up to his neck, if that. The DEI is just a weird kind of groupthink that has taken over the last especially 20 years, and it's grounded in the idea, which is completely false, that there are, particularly when it comes to female appointments, that there are no essential differences between men and women. And if you actually do believe that there are no essential differences between men and women, then there is no good reason why there shouldn't be just as many women in any industry as there are men. And that is kind of what's feeding this. And no one wants to say, sorry, there are essential differences between men and women. Obviously, there are always exceptions to the rule. And as long as people don't have the courage to just say that in boardrooms, then you're always going to have moronic DEI hires.
Well, the problem with DEI is it isn't just men and women. Obviously, it's, you know, the color of your skin, your ethnicity. What happened to merit? I mean, honest, when you're hiring someone, it should be about merit. Can you do the job? How well can you do the job?
Well, merit is white supremacy now. Literally, they say things like that.
I do get that, but then are they saying that white people are just better at everything? I mean, that's if you're calling merit white supremacy, then you're saying that white people are better at everything, and that's not the case, because there are many other hires that have demonstrated this isn't happening. Like, DEI is just an attempt to manipulate things when it should be about merit, regardless. I mean, that's one of the libertarian policies is we are colorblind.
Yeah.
Your color, your sex is irrelevant. It's what you bring to the table.
But some of the attributes that we would say constitute merit are literally being called white supremacy or whiteness. So efficiency is called whiteness. Punctuality and hard work, they are literally called by critical race theories whiteness. And so there is this sense that the whole idea of hiring people grounded on merit, if you really peer beneath it, say the crazy critical race theorists.
All right, Stephen, I need you to weigh in on this. So we were talking about colonialism and how, you know, it's all white supremacy and competency is white supremacy. So a while ago, I remember Tim Pool talking about how someone was seriously trying to make the argument that time is colonial and colonial thinking.
Yep.
Now, I Googled that, and my university just came out with something.
Oh, yeah.
If you pull this screen up, Rami, the University of Technology, Sydney, which I went to, challenging colonial concepts of time. I haven't read this. So you're getting this.
I mean, and the picture as well. That does not help.
Okay, hang on. Our understanding of ourselves is woven together with threads of time, concepts deeply entangled with power, culture, and identity. Time is not a neutral concept. Historically, time has acted as a tool of oppression and marginalization. Colonial notions of civilization were linked inescapably to the prudent use of time. So, on one hand, time is an objective measurement derived from observation of pneumonia. The other is a cultural artifact wielded to dehumanize Indigenous peoples. Their societies have been depicted as timeless and therefore inferior. Stephen,
there's a lot to unpack there, but let me just say, and you're going to be surprised to hear this,
Sure.
There is some truth in the idea that how we think about time is very cultural, and this is one of the reasons that many Indigenous Australian communities have not been able to integrate into mainstream Australian culture, because we have a particular attitude towards time that is quite regimented and punitive. You turn up at 9 a.m., you leave at 5 p.m., or you lose your job. That is a very I'd say it's a very Anglo-Protestant approach to time. It's regimented, it's punitive, it's precise. Indigenous culture has no such relationship with time at all. Things are not regimented, they are not punitive, and that is why it's often the case that they have trouble with school, they have trouble with work, because our whole economy is based on a particular attitude to time.
I think it's more that they have a different attitude to time. I think when you look at those cultures, it's more based around sunrise, sunset, and obviously that changes through the year. So that's why those more precise ideas of time can be difficult for them, because they kind of go more off nature's concept of time.
Totally.
Sorry, John.
Yeah, no, look, I think interesting comments. I mean, it would be, I mean, Stephen, you're the professional historian. When did Europe adopt sort of a 24-hour day to measure our time?
The short answer is I have no idea.
Right.
It is interesting though.
Wednesday.
It is interesting though, wasn't it? It used to be considered, not PC. If you're not saying the dream time, then it's not a PC. Then eventually it became, you can't say the dream time because that puts it in a colonial lens. It's called the dreaming.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, so it's not like, and it's very over time, Aboriginal history has actually expanded longer and longer and longer. And it's like, guys, what are we doing?
Well, here's the thing where it actually becomes very, very detrimental to Indigenous Australians, because a lot of people will say, no, you can't expect them to operate the way we do in terms of time, because that is oppressing them, that is forcing our culture onto theirs. But the thing is, our conception of time has led to an economy and a lifestyle that is healthy, well-educated, knowledge, employment, and that's the only way to do it. You cannot do it with their conception of time. And so the problem with so many of the leftists when it comes to Indigenous Australians, they want to keep a lot of Indigenous culture but enjoy a lifestyle that is incompatible with that culture.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? And again, guys, we've got obviously, I'm not aware of anyone else being an Aboriginal here. I am actually doing an Aboriginal panel very soon on this particular topic with Alec Dumaji, who we've had before, and a number of others. But it's not that. It's that we've sensed that there's something untoward being done, that the destruction of Western civilization and the things that have made Australia prosper and increase the length of living and quality of life is somehow evil, and that my culture should be therefore not worth anything. That's where I have a problem. And on top of that, those people that feign these actual, they bring up these arguments, it's often not in the spirit of trying to improve the rural Aboriginals. It's actually just to elevate those that are already doing very well for themselves even better, going from the hundreds of thousands of dollars to possibly millions of dollars. That's where I have the problem. And when I see these virtue signaling things that are done, it makes me very upset, because it's like there's a lot of Aboriginal Australians, they are not on the same page, and they live rurally and they don't actually care about whether there's an acknowledgement to country. They just want to be treated with respect and equally. That's literally it.
And I think one of the attacks on time as well is to discredit the value of experience and wisdom, because experience and wisdom comes with time. That's the reality. The longer we live, the more experience we have, the more wisdom we gain, which is very different to knowledge. Knowledge is important. We must build knowledge, but even knowledge increases over time, and that collection of knowledge changes due to our wisdom as we grow older, which is created through experience. And
that's something that's really corroding the West right now, because how often do you ever hear people talking about wisdom? Now, what university did you last see that had in its motto wisdom? They don't. The word that people use nowadays is smart. And And you're quite right. I mean, people can be very smart, very young, but it doesn't make them wise. And what we need is not just people who are smart, who can do the math so they can build bridges, but we need people who are wise. And that is something that we're increasingly lacking in the West.
Yeah. And they attach smart to the word education. Like back in the day, a very common term was street smarts. These people who are smart through experience, not through structured learning. Like I still think, obviously, structured learning is important, gaining knowledge is important, but experience, wisdom, street smarts are equally important as well.
Absolutely, and if you're one of the rare breed that's got both, then that's an incredible thing, and they're the kinds of people that you want in leadership. Now, and I would also just draw a distinction between institutional book smarts and self-taught book smarts, because some of the greatest sort of Labor leaders in Australian history never finished high school. They were working in mines when they were children, but they educated themselves through reading, and so they had book smarts. They knew their history. They knew some philosophy. They knew a lot of the things that you would learn at university, but they never went to university. And so one of the great myths nowadays, and I shouldn't say this because I make it part of my living off the universities, is that you need a university degree to be educated. First, no university is going to educate anyone. That is something you do over the course of a lifetime. Second, all you need to have is determination and the ability to read, and you can educate yourself to a large degree.
I think universities really just create a structured methodology to learning. They do help in that regard. I think because one of the things I learned when I went through university is everything I learned at university, yes, it was very important, useful, it created a lot of knowledge, but my degree really didn't help me once I got into the industry. I had to start learning from scratch. Even though I had a lot of knowledge, I was in the IT industry, had a degree in information technology. I learnt, machine code and programming and all sorts of different things. But when it came to the real life, I got my first job, I had to go back to the start learning again. And, speaking to some of my seniors and employers back in the day, they gave a very simple explanation. A degree just demonstrates that you're willing to learn. That's really the strength of it.
Mate, I think you're even being a bit optimistic there, to be honest.
I'm not saying back in the day. I think things have evolved and changed now. But as you said, you don't have to go to university to be able to learn. I do a lot of, I'm of the belief that when you stop learning, you stop living. So I'm always interested in new things. Whether it's politics, nutrition, training, health. I look at different things. I always want to add knowledge to myself, and again, that develops experience and wisdom and other attributes, which I think are important.
So we're going to come back to this because I want to ask Stephen, after we hear this speech, exactly what went wrong with the universities, especially free speech. It used to be a place of discussion and free thought, but I'm being told that Donald Trump is going to come up very soon. Currently, the son of Billy Graham, I forgot his name, is actually speaking right now.
Definitely not Billy Graham.
But yeah, definitely not Billy Graham. Billy Graham's passed, but his son's talking.
Franklin.
Franklin. But I did want to play some of Hulk Hogan's speech because supposedly everyone was standing up throughout the whole thing. It must have been that good. So I'll just switch over to that right now so that we can actually watch that for you guys. Forgive me, guys. Give me a second.
Well, he used to be the governor of Minnesota.
I didn't know that.
Which is helpful.
There you go. All right, let's see what he's got to say.
I was always a Rowdy Roddy Piper guy, for the record.
If you guys are listening,
I love Hulk, though.
Give this a share, guys. We're up to over 600 on X. If you're on the other platforms, get over to X, go to Joel Jammal, click the link in my bio, get over to X. There's 630 of us there. I don't know why there's no comment section on X, but I'm going to work to actually get that up for the next one. But come join there, retweet it, and let's get it out there. Donald Trump will be coming on stage soon, but this is...
Let me tell you something, brother.
All right, I'll try and keep it down.
You know something? When I came here tonight, there was so much energy in this room. I felt maybe I was in Madison Square Garden getting ready to win another world title. Or maybe I thought the vibe was so intense, The energy was so crazy, it felt like maybe I was gonna press that no-good, stinky giant over my head and slam him through the mat, brother. But what I found out was I was in a room full of real Americans, brother. And at the end of the day, with our leader up there, my hero, that gladiator, we're gonna bring America back together. One real American at a time, brother.
Hulkster.
You know something? I've seen some great tag teams in my time. Hulk Hogan and, ooh yeah, the Macho Man Randy Savage. But you know something? I see the greatest tag team of my life standing upon us, getting ready to straighten this country out for all the real Americans. You know, even though you guys are real Americans, you better get ready. Because when Donald J. Trump becomes the President of the United States, all the real Americans are going to be nicknamed Trumpites. Because all the Trumpites are going to be running wild for 4 years. So with the power of Donald J. Trump and all the Trumpites running wild, America is going to get back on track, and like Donald J. Trump said, America is going to be great again. You know, when I look out and I see all the real Americans, I think about how Donald Trump, his family was compromised. When I look out there and I see Donald Trump, I think about how his business was compromised. But what happened last week when they took a shot at my hero and they tried to kill the next President of the United States? Enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania make America great again.
Elvis, how do you rate his performance so far?
Pretty good.
Very good. Have you ever done that?
No, sadly, I've never ripped the shirt off. We may have to work on that.
I'll have to work on it for the next
podcast.
For the
federal election, yeah.
We'll start with the local council and then
shirt buttons are much easier, I'll give you that.
So they make them. They design those shirts, right?
Yeah, of course.
I'll get you an Ark one.
I love it.
I won't want to rip it then.
You won't want to rip it. Making China.
You know something, Trumpites? I didn't come here as Hulk Hogan, but I just had to give you a little taste. You know, my name is Terry Bollea. And as an entertainer, I love you too. And as an entertainer, I tried to stay out of politics. But after everything that's happened to our country over the past 4 years, and everything that happened last weekend, I can no longer stay silent. I'm here tonight because I want the world to know that Donald Trump is a real American hero. And I'm proud to support my hero as the next president of this United States.
He loves it.
Who wouldn't?
You know, guys, I've known Donald Trump for over 35 years. You know, hold on a second, hold on. I just had a flashback. I just had a flashback, man. This is really tripping. You know, the last time I was up on stage, Donald Trump was sitting at ringside at the Trump Plaza. I was bleeding like a pig, and I won the world title right in front of Donald J. Trump. And you know something? He's gonna win in November, and we're all going to be champions again when he wins.
America's a different place.
Oh, yeah.
It's just,
it is, man.
And like I said, I've known that man for over 35 years, and he's always been the biggest patriot, and he still is. He's always told you exactly what he thought, and he still does, brother. And no matter the odds, he always finds a way to win. And when he's back in our White House, America is going to start winning again. You know, guys, over my career, I've been in the ring with some of the biggest, some of the baddest dudes on the planet. And I've squared off against warriors, ooh yeah, savages. And I've even, like I said, body slammed giants in the middle of the ring. And I know tough guys. But let me tell you something, brother. Donald Trump is the toughest of them all. They've thrown everything at Donald Trump. All the investigations, the impeachments, the court cases, and he's still standing and kicking their butts.
I think he listened to my comments.
You know, we never had it better than the Trump years. Back then, we had a thriving economy. We had strong borders. We had safe streets. We had peace and respect around the world. But then we lost it all in a blink of an eye. Crime is out of control. The border is out of control. The price of food and gas and housing is out of control. And the only person who can clean this up is Donald Trump.
Same thing we're seeing here.
Yeah.
You know, guys, I really, really love this country. And I've lived the American dream. And I want my kids, your kids, and all those little teeny Hulkamaniacs out there to live the American dream too. This November, guys, we can save the American dream for everyone. And Donald Trump is the president who will get the job done. So all you criminals, all you lowlifes, all you scumbags, all you drug dealers, and all you crooked politicians need to answer one question, brother. What you gonna do when Donald Trump and all the Trumpomaniacs run wild on you, brother? God bless you, and thank you.
Classic Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Very similar ideas to myself. Like, I used to be a professional fighter, obviously MMA, UFC. Didn't have a lot of interest in politics, didn't get involved, but the last couple of years kind of changed that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's a lot of people. I mean, that's my wife. She had no interest in politics whatsoever until Trump sort of came in and she just started noticing things. And then one day I put her on to Tim Pool. I said, I just listened to this guy because she was asking me all these questions. I didn't know the answers. And Joel had told me about Tim Pool. And so I put my wife, said, just listen to Tim Pool. He'll give you the answers. And she became a political fanatic. Now, she knows more about what's going on than I do. But I think millions of people are just like that.
Yeah, my wife's the same. I was a late starter here. COVID kind of got me looking at what was going on. Why is the government doing this? Why are we not stopping these things from happening? And it started my journey from here. And I kind of reached a point where so much had happened to me and to the people around me and our city, our country. And I'm not the sort of person that just sits back and takes it. I'm not a complainer. I just didn't want to sit there complaining about it. So the only solution for me was to get out there and try and do something about it. That's why I jumped in the political sphere. My partner, my wife, is probably a couple of years behind me. But now, like, she's the one that actually woke me up Sunday morning and going, oh my God, someone tried to assassinate Trump. I'm half asleep, like, yeah, okay, sure, no problem. I'm like, what's going on? And yeah, so you're right. I think we're starting to see more and more people wake up and start becoming aware and more involved in what's going on around us.
Sorry, speaking about the assassination, I actually have a clip of Bishop Murray on Sunday when the shooting actually took place. That night, he actually did a message to Donald Trump, and he actually did make the point that, you know, and obviously I'm going to say what he probably was too humble to say. Both of them are of similar ilk. Bishop Murray tries to address more the spiritual element and the cultural element, whereas Donald Trump's taking the more political animal on and fighting the cultural element at the same time. But the bishop actually had some words of encouragement I thought you guys might want to see in case you missed it in this particular
I truly
video.
love our country and love you all and look forward to...
There you go.
I want to see Donald Trump. Trump, Mr. Trump.
Ooh, that is not the clip. That is not the clip. Don't you love how they do that? They just sort of...
what do you remember about...
Here it is. Here it is.
Ark, and my phone starts going off. And one of my parishioners who was in the crowd said...
Thank God it was a scratch. But they tried to kill him. I had a feeling that this was going to happen. It wasn't a feeling. It was more so of a, But I probably would have mentioned it, but because of what happened to me as well, it sort of, was left. But I knew. But I knew they will not succeed. I knew they will not succeed. I pray that you remain strong, Mr. President.
It's astonishing, and he won't say it. He won't say it, but I'll say it. The bishop would be dead if it wasn't for the intervention of God. And anyone that knows what happened with the actual blade, it was one of those flip blades that open up to your thumb. And when the guy was gripping it, he was gripping it so hard, this knife, that he actually re-clipped it so that after the first stab in the eye of the bishop, which is why he lost his eye, after that it started to fold in onto the guy's fist, as in this blind rage he was attacking the bishop in the neck. The blade wasn't hitting, it was actually cutting the guy's own fingers. So there was the actual misinformation put out there, especially by some media outlets saying that the members of the Syrian church had cut his fingers, when actually it was the perpetrator himself that cut it. And you don't hear that clarification. There's no fact check from the Australian Associated Press cowards about any of that. They just come after people like me and those on the show like Natalie Doomer and some of our other guests like Jeff Grimshaw. But the bishop almost died, if not for an act of God when he held up his actual cross. That was what hit the actual knife at the moment that he was holding the trigger on the... I'll bring a knife in one time if it's not illegal. I'll show you exactly what happened with each stab. But the bishop, pointing out, I would not be here if it wasn't for God. And similarly, Donald Trump would not be here if it wasn't for him tilting his head, as I showed at the start of this. Guys, by the way, before I get the panel to weigh in on that, I am still monitoring this. Trump's son is now on right now. It's slowly crescendoing to Donald Trump himself. I am keeping... look at people calling me during a live stream like I don't know I'm live streaming.
Maybe they want to get on air.
Mate, honestly, I don't know what it is. It's dead silent when I'm not streaming, but the moment I'm streaming, I get a week's worth of messages and calls, and it's like, what the hell is...
No one's calling me.
It's lovely people. I pick up the phone, I'm like, you do know I was recording then? And they're like, oh, I didn't know. I'm like... Guys. Anyway, it's all good. No, I get it. Not everyone watches. It's all good.
If you want to call me, my phone's here.
Yeah. So what did you? Anyway, what did you guys have? Do you guys have any thoughts on any of that?
Well, look, I will just say I do think that we are at a point in modern Western history where there are some very evil forces at work trying to bring society away from what I would call a created order, more powerfully now than they have been in a very long time. The family is being undermined. notions of sex and sexuality that are foundations of family, that are foundations of flourishing societies, are being undermined now more than ever. And I do see this not just as a political fight, but I actually do. I mean, I'm a Christian, and I believe that there is more to reality than what you can poke a stick at. And I think that there is a spiritual battle going on. And I do see Donald Trump as the one who God seems to be using to do some very positive things to push back what I would call some pretty satanic tendencies and satanic forces that have emerged over the last 30 years. And some of it is just outright satanic. Devil worship, witchcraft, neo-paganism. These are things that over time corrupt and immiserate a society. And I do see Donald Trump as probably the most powerful force in my lifetime of being able to stave this off and also give immense confidence to a counter movement who have been trying to fight all of this stuff for years but have just had very limited success. And I think the overturning of Roe versus Wade is maybe sort of the central event in all of this so far. That's not an argument in favour of miracles. I know those who don't believe are not going to be convinced by what I say, but from my perspective as a Christian, that is how I see things.
Yeah, look, these things have been happening, as you mentioned, for a long time. And, you know, I was one of those people that was kind of ignorant to it or just wrote it off as, you know, that's just, it's not what it seems to be. And for me, it was the COVID era that really kind of showed me what they were trying to do, the way they, you know, locked us up. I think the lockdowns were a really great example because they locked us into areas, then they tried to separate us from community groups, from churches, from family groups. They tried to isolate us and break us down because that's the way they got most of the people to comply, because if you can separate people from your support base, and the traditional support bases are your family, then your church, then your communities, and then it becomes the wider community. If you can break all that down and separate people, then they become more malleable, they become more susceptible to suggestion and coercion and these sort of things. And then it's highlighted all these other things that have really been happening now. But then when you look at it, look back, you can see that they didn't start here. I'm just noticing it here. It was happening back here. And again, that's why we need to kind of step up and talk about these things. And that's also why they're bringing in a lot of these new legislation, such as mis and disinformation, and because they don't want us talking about us, they do want to separate us, and they use the idea of safety and convenience, but it comes under the banner of control, and it is there is something underlyingly malicious about what they're doing.
Yeah, can I just say, guys, you mentioned, Elvis mentioned the mis and disinformation. This is how bad it is now, and they haven't even passed a bill. On the Facebook page of Turning Point Australia, which is a 95,000 person page, I have a concurrent viewer number of 21. 21 with 95,000 people watching live. That is the power of big tech. This is foreign interference. You're not going to see any heads roll. Whereas on X right now, we have 760 concurrent viewers on a page that only has 5,000 followers. This is the power of big tech. This is what they are doing to us in real time. And if you're listening on the other platforms, I need you to get over. The Turning Point Australia page, just so you know, it wasn't always like this. When the Canberra protests were on, and I was the only major streamer that was live streaming it, we had 40,000 concurrent viewers covering that at the time. That just shows you exactly what they're doing with the manipulation. And it's been really interesting ever since this Biden stuff came out. Big tech have started to pivot. And they've been starting to say, okay, we do have a game plan. Okay, good, no worries. Let's start censoring this. So the Times Magazine, they've already removed the photo. Yeah, sorry.
Just on that topic, I actually was sharing a post on Instagram and obviously tagging yourself and that. and Instagram, I sent you the screenshot if you want to check it, that says, do you really want to tag this person? He is a known for misinformation. I'm like, yes, I do. Thank you very much.
Wow.
But
it's paternal. It's like you're a grown-ass man. You literally beat up men for a living. And they're like, oh, I don't want you to get hurt, Elvis. I don't want you to get hurt. Joel could really hurt you with misinformation.
Well, that's a crazy thing. It's like, why are you deciding whether I want to do this? I've typed in your name.
Yeah.
Like,
it's consensual.
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's consensual.
It's like, I don't need you to check on me. Yeah. I'm fine here. But it just shows you the censorship that's happening on like Instagram and Facebook and these platforms. And as we discovered recently with the Elon cases, we wouldn't know a lot of this was going on if they themselves didn't say that every single other platform complied.
Yeah.
X was the only one that said no. I mean, obviously, they still have to comply with certain requirements and regulations, and not every single post it survives. But when it's unreasonable, that they will stand up and they will fight it and they will try and stop it. I mean, there's only so much you can do, but X is the most effective platform for free speech that we can use at the moment. I know in the US they've got Truth Social, but we can't get it here.
Yeah.
Whereas
Rumble's pretty
Twitter
good.
Here, Rumble's fantastic
great.
for video as well.
Just recently, we can get Truth.
Oh,
really?
You can download the app. You can download the app.
Awesome. Very good.
Well, something to add.
Speaking of Elon, I'm glad you mentioned him. Sorry we're jumping around all over the way, guys. We're still watching, Trump will jump on live soon. But Elon Musk actually said that he's donating $45 million to Trump supporting PAC monthly. $45 million a month. I mean, it's a different world over there. The total Australian budget for our elections is like 200 mil.
Well, the interesting thing about all this is, in 2008, 2012, 2016 and 2020, that's 4 presidential elections in a row, the Democrats' funding has been like massively higher than the Republicans. Okay, and that was all fine. But now that Trump's got more funding, we've got to get big money out of business. Got to get big money out of politics. Got to get big money out of politics. So now that the tide's turned, these Democrats, they're always now. When the Democrats were getting much more funding, because Republicans believe in free speech, and a political donation is an act of free speech, we didn't complain. We didn't say the system's wrong. We just said, well, we've got to go and work out how to raise more money. And Joe Biden's been out there saying, because none of the mega donors are giving any money anymore. And he's saying, it's terrible. Well, this is how you got elected, you fraud.
Yeah.
Well,
it's astonishing.
Absolutely. And just before the debate, I think, wasn't it like George Clooney raised like $27 million for him as well? Wasn't complaining about that.
That's right.
But that also brings up that Hulk Hogan was saying the same thing as Elon. Like Elon, not long ago, was like, you know what, I want to remain impartial. I'm not going to make a commitment to either party, until things started to change and he started to see the direction that the US was heading in. And he's like, well, now I have to take a stand. I have to make a choice. And that's obviously why he's supported Trump and the Republican Party. And after the assassination attempt, now are donating that $45 million monthly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think did he call, I may have heard this wrong, but I think Elon called it like a death cult or something, this DEI.
Yeah, look, he's brilliant on DEI. And, just 4 years ago, he was voting for Biden and donating to Biden. So he's come a long way. Yeah. I think now that he's, when there was all this talk that he might buy X, or it was then Twitter, I said on the platform on multiple occasions, I do not believe this will happen. They will find a way to stop Elon, because he had been moving in the right direction. He took the first COVID vaccine, and then he became a skeptic, and he's moved to the right quite quickly. I thought, look, they will not let him buy this. It's too much of a powerful thing. But then he goes and offers such a massive overvaluation for it that the shareholders, if the directors had said you should not accept this bid, it would have been criminal negligence, okay, going against the shareholders. So he bought it, and everyone said, oh, he's bought a white elephant, the advertisers will go. And Elon Musk said, look, if the advertisers go, they can get lost. I don't even need them. I'm not doing this to make money.
Go F yourselves.
What a great man Elon Musk is.
Yeah, and we need more of it. And that's the real question. Where does that come from? Is it from his South African heritage?
I think there's something to do with
it. There's a bit of a reality that he understands there.
Yeah, I think that's...
Yeah, because it's interesting. DEI almost got... who knows? I reckon it was a contributing factor, because I reckon they were turning a lot of Secret Service people away because they wanted to reach their quota of 30% women in the workforce. But just this, before I keep forgetting to bring this up, this is from the US Secret Service. This is a post they did 2 weeks ago where they had a Pride Month special with those in the force. And you can watch this and listen to them opine about how hard it is to be in the Secret Service and paid what they are and be a part of the LGBTQ community. Guys, this is what your focus is. There's something wrong, and no one wants this. No one. This is look, 1,300 views on their particular video. No one actually wants this. They just want you to do your job, do your competent job, and defend the president. And they almost got the president killed, in my opinion. I mean, the rank. If you listen to some of the analysis from Dan Bongino and also some private military contractors that Patrick Bet-David interviewed, you can hear them poke the holes in exactly what was done versus how it was used to be done by the Secret Service under the Reagan years. It's disgusting. They can't holster their weapon. They're not getting the president off stage. Who cares if he wants to fist pump? Do your job. Get him off there. Get him out. And you got to protect him. But they kept him on the target.
And one of them was even ducking for cover behind the president.
Shocking. You couldn't make this stuff up. It makes me disgusted.
And the average American isn't into this sort of thing. I mean, the average Australian isn't into this thing. These DEI is pushed by a minority of very vocal and well-placed, powerful people, and it's allowed by cowards. So it's pushed by true believers and cynics. It's allowed by cowards who know that the whole thing is a lot of rubbish, but don't have the courage to just say, excuse me, this is not going to lead to our organisation, whether it's a military, a police force, a secret service, a corp, being more effective. It's going to lead to it being less effective.
Sorry,
I was just going to say, just a slight pivot. Do you want to finish your
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, again, it just leads back to language. The reason people don't want to stand up is you'll be called a bigot. And you don't want to be a bigot. You don't want to be, transphobic or anything like that. So they use that language to make people afraid, and then they use that language to affect your income, your family, your businesses. And so less and less people want to stand up and speak against it, even though they don't agree. Because I speak to a lot of people daily through my business, and they feel that way, but they don't want to speak about it because, as we've seen numerous times, you say something on social media and your employer sees it and they don't agree. Now you're in trouble. Or even if they agree, but they can't support it publicly, well, they're going to have to reprimand you and do something about it. Apologies, Joel.
No, that's right. I was just going to say, look, Melania Trump has just walked in. I won't... I think there might be another speech not for... Maybe she is walking for Trump. I don't know, but I'm happy to feel a little bit more until Trump comes on. That's Vance. We are going to still talk about Vance. We haven't even had a chance to... People are wondering, who the hell is this guy?
That's Melania,
Yeah, that's Melania. So she literally just walked in, guys, and obviously the media do what they usually do and be like, oh, where's Trump? Where's this and that? His wife's abandoned him and, bastards. Anyway, I'm going to mute this now because I don't know what music they're going to play.
Joel, I'd like to say something,
please.
Which is... there is a lot of confidence in the Republican Party and Trump supporters all around the world right now. The betting markets are saying he's the odds-on favourite to win. That's the biggest threat we've got over confidence, putting down our guard. We've got to pretend we're behind at all times. Now, the Democrat, and I'll tell you what worries me. We've all known Biden's a mess, for 3 years, okay? But even before the debate was this time 3 weeks ago. Now, even before the debate, the polling, on average, had Trump ahead by 1 or 2 points, despite Joe Biden being the complete physical and mental mess and policy mess. But why wasn't he ahead by 25 points? Okay. And now, in the post debate and now the post-attempted assassination environment, The polling is still quite tight. Now, it's moved up about 2 or 3 points since the attempted assassination. You've still got about 43% of Americans, if they get a phone call tonight, just in spite of everything, they'll say, who will you vote for, Mr. and Mrs. Smith out there in Kansas? And 43% of them saying, Joe Biden, Joe Biden. Now, that tells me that's their base. They've got for the worst candidate in the history of politics, you've still got a big chunk saying they're going to vote for him. So now what happens then if you have a half-decent candidate? Well, it means we've got an extremely polarised America. You know, when Ronald Reagan was shot, quite similar to this, in early 1981, his polls overnight went up 20 points. Okay, now we're seeing a very similar situation, but we're only seeing a very small increase in his support. So this election is not over, and sometimes when things look really good in politics, that's just before they start looking bad. Okay, so it's like John Howard won this big victory in 2004. He's fourth on the trot. Everyone thought he can't be stopped. Well, then he went and got his ass kicked 3 years later. This can often happen.
Can I just say, I do think that what's undeniable is whether this shooting was intentional or not, or was a deep state thing or not, which I don't think the jury's in. I think the jury's still out. I do think that the Democrats have 100% gone into a different gear now. And they're like, okay, we're not effing around. We have to get Biden to step down. So he obviously last week, he had Clooney, who was his chief funder, stop backing him. Obama's becoming more and more vocal, whereas previously he said we need unity. And all the leadership are against him. So they've made their move. They know where the Republicans are. They know the vice president, importantly, because that is a key part of all of this. And they're like, okay, now we need to put our A-team out there. I really think now they're literally in desperation. They're going to go for their best debater for the president, so potentially Gavin Newsom. I really do.
They can't.
California's going to.
They can't go for Gavin.
They're going to have
a white male.
Yeah.
This is a party. This is a party which has got itself into a quota swamp.
Especially now, with Kamala as.
No, they would go. They would go for a white male if they thought it could win the election. They're desperate. They would do it.
Well, they would if they thought it could. But the truth is, if you replace Kamala, who is got a little bit of a black ancestry, not much, and she's a woman, which is indisputable. Okay, if she is bumped for a white male, most blacks and most women will still vote for the Democratic ticket. But 10%, 5% are those two biggest voting blocks will say, I'm staying home. You got rid of a black female for a white male. You only need 5% of the blacks and 5% of the women to do that. Trump's won. So this is why I think there's only two options here, Kamala or Michelle.
And I also, as mentioned earlier, I think one of the problems that we see both there and here, like you can't get overconfident, is the problem. And this is really only, as you mentioned, developed over the last 10 or 20 years where people have become embedded. I am a Labor, my father voted Labor, and I'm going to vote regardless of what's happening. And, you have that on the Liberal and the Labor front because they're the two major parties. Even though more and more people are turning towards the minor parties, they're looking for other answers, there are other solutions. There's a very large part of the community that just don't want to get involved in politics or don't understand it when they try, and they just go, this is how I do it and this is what I'm going to do. And again, that's where, as you mentioned, we can't become overconfident. Now, yes, there can be a swing, and we're hoping there will be, and it's looking good, but you can't be overconfident because of those people who aren't being proactive in the process.
What we didn't know previously, and I don't think it's still certain yet, was that Kamala's team actually wanted to actually become the president. It wasn't clear that they couldn't actually cut a deal with her where, for example, she takes, what's better than the presidency? Maybe, what's an equivalent or slightly under so that they can win the election, but also they let her down easy. Putting on the Supreme Court.
Governor of California.
But I reckon Supreme Court's most likely, but Governor of California, absolutely. And I do think there's a version of this where she wants Biden to step down, which is clearly what she's done, and it's a fact. And where they're actually like, okay, well, what's our superior ticket?
Yeah.
Well, our best debater is Gavin Newsom. It's beyond a shadow of doubt, he is their best debater. He won a debate where he had all the facts against him, with Ron DeSantis, who was basically the number 2 of the Republicans, other than Haley. And so when I look at that, and I look at this, the way this is panned out, they are going to, if they are serious about this election, because it's perfectly possible they're not serious about this election. It's perfectly possible they're like, you know what, there's no way we can win this. The man was shot. Everyone's galvanizing behind him. It's perfectly possible they're just like, you know what, we'll miss this one. But I don't think they can afford to.
Well, they can't.
I don't think they can't. And I think they'll put their A-team. And that's why I think they'll put their A-team.
Well, they know they can win it, though.
They can't go with Kamala.
They are frightened of a Trump presidency because they are frightened that Trump will do to them what they did to him, which is endless legal scandals. Now, they couldn't get Trump on anything. They had to... imagine being in business for 60 years and they went through absolutely everything and they couldn't find a thing. Okay, they had to make up obvious garbage.
Yeah.
Now, so I think Gavin Newsom would probably be, in terms of who would be a good president. Look, he looks like a president of the United States. I agree with that, but I think that his plan will be. I think he quite likes the speculation, but I think he'll be looking at 2028. But I think the Democrats are absolutely not going to say, oh, well, we've accepted we've lost this.
Yeah.
They're worried about going to jail. They've done so many extremely corrupt things against Trump. And they now Trump, when he got elected in 2016, one of the first interview he gave was with 60 Minutes. And Trump had said a million times, lock her up, lock her up. He's asked on 60 Minutes, what are you going to do? And Trump just said, oh, look, that was all in the campaign. Let's move on. We're going to put all the bitterness behind us. We're not going to do anything. We're not going to do anything. And I think the Democrats looked at that and said, oh, that's cool. Okay, if you're not going to do us, we'll do you.
Yeah.
And I also worry if they do get to the point where they realise that they are actually going to lose, they're going to plant landmines all around the bureaucracy. So that when Trump comes in, this is going to blow up and make Trump look bad. So I tell you who I'm very impressed with in Trump world is Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller. He's the one who is really, really out there to say, look, we've got to, on this occasion, we absolutely have to drain the swamp. We talked about it last time, but Trump didn't know his way around Washington. Look, he'd barely been in Washington. He'd walked off Fifth Avenue. He gets elected the President of the United States. And he had a good heart. He had good intentions. But the people around him were 50-50. He had some good people, some swamp creatures.
He trusted the wrong people.
On this occasion, I think he's become a political person very, very quickly, and I think he now will know his way around Washington.
To quote Winston Churchill, men who ride wild tigers dare not dismount. And that's precisely what the Democrats don't want to do. They don't want to dismount the wild tiger of a gamed legal system, which they've been aiming at Trump, because as soon as you get off, it turns on you. And that's precisely what John's been saying. And they are scared stiff. And that is why I think we want to be careful about overestimating the extent to which they're going to care about keeping a DEI hire in that particular role. The only thing I would say would rule out Newsom is not that he's white or a man, is that there's just so much ammunition against him on the state of California.
That's a good point.
Now, John is correct. They will lose maybe 5, maybe 10% of voters if they don't go with a DEI, but they'll also gain voters as well with a really decent, credible candidate, and so they have to factor that in as well. And I completely agree. And it is a fact that Trump. It's quite plausible that Trump will lose this election. Like, we forget, Trump is as hated as he is loved in that country, and there are a lot of people who are going to go to that ballot and they're going to say, something. I kind of like a lot of what Trump stands for, but man, I don't want to go through 4 years of whatever's going to happen if I vote for Trump. So sorry, Trump, I'll vote Republican next time round. We just can't have you again.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we're up to 900 viewers. I am still watching. They're in the middle of a concert right now, so they're still going. Sorry how late it is. Over there, it's like 10 o'clock, basically. I thought it was meant to be all wound up by 10.
It's their summer too, so
I'm going to keep a track record on how that's going. Just breaking news, by the way, for those of you listening, especially in Australia, former Premier Dom Perrottet has just announced his resignation. John, I thought you might want to hear that. Former Premier Dom Perrottet has just announced his resignation. And what that actually means, he was one of the COVID premiers after Gladys Berejiklian. He came in and normalised a lot of the lockdown measures and with Victoria. I just wanted to break that news with you guys now. But one of the things that I wanted to raise with you gentlemen around me here is how close we actually came to a potential all-out war with Iran. Iran, you know, and obviously it's sort of been in the background of this Israel-Palestine conflict, and Iran escalating into a war in the Middle East and all of that blowing up would have made a serious escalation with everything around the world. Everything, absolutely. I mean, we sort of hear through back channels and through back funding, they're funding Palestine because it's sort of a proxy against Israel. But I've been seeing a lot of headlines coming out since the Trump attempted assassination. Trump's assassination attempt, live updates from NBC and a few other outlets saying that the US learned of an Iranian plot to kill Trump weeks before the shooting. Now, this is kind of like, you know, weapons of mass destruction. And, you know, there was a similar plot, even though there's zero links between the shooter and Iran. You know, there's this almost like, all it could be like is like, oh, intelligence agencies, 20 of them have testified that, you know, there's links between this shooter, and that's all it took for basically America to invade Iraq. Now, that is a sort of thing where if Trump truly was shot and we saw a situation where the Republicans were basically leaderless, who are you left with? I mean, the only person that got any delegates, the most delegates, was Nikki Haley, who got something like almost 100 delegates. And, I mean, this is what Nikki Haley's like. You know, she's too busy signing bombs. If we can pull this image up, she's too busy signing bombs in the Middle East, basically. And this is the problem I see, guys. You know, you've got this establishment in the Republicans and the Democrats. It's like they want war. On the one hand, Nikki Haley says a strong president doesn't start wars, a strong president prevents wars. And also Nikki Haley signing the sides of these bombs, the shells about to go off. This is, I think, the concern of a lot of Five Eyes countries, people that don't actually like killings being done in their name. What did you guys think about this? Because to think about it, we were an inch away from this all-out war.
Before going into the war, that was one of the things I mentioned earlier, that Nikki Haley suddenly was going to the Republican conference as if she knew something was going to happen. And I go, this is one of those conspiracy. It's an idea. It's like, why did she suddenly change her mind? Did she know something was going to happen? Did she think there was going to be an opportunity for her to step in and become the nominee at the last second? So that kind of leads, I wouldn't say credence, but it kind of raises the question of, you know, was this a manipulated situation? And again, regarding Iran, that would have been a very dangerous situation. We saw it escalate a little bit a while back when the US retaliated for one of their strikes and stuff. And it's a scary situation where we've got, you know, potential nuclear war happening in Iran, and then also Russia, Ukraine. It's almost like they're pushing for it. And I don't think people understand just how terrifying that thought really is to the world.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, Iran is not yet a nuclear power. They're heading that way thanks to Biden and sort of recommencing billions of dollars of donations to Iran that Trump stopped, that I think Obama started up, but they're not actually nuclear weapon yet. And so it would have been, I mean, it would have been Iran who would have backed down. There's no way Iran would dare start a war right now with America.
Well, John, what do you think? If Trump was shot and we saw this week play out, Republicans running around like headless chickens, no clear leadership.
I believe in the event that Trump got shot, it would have been an unbelievable tragedy for America and the world. There would likely have been violence at the street level across America, and it would have been very ugly. That's the first point. The second point is, who would have ended up being the nominee? I believe it would have been Donald Trump Jr. Right. Simply because of the symbolism. And look, he's very political, Don Jr. And I think that they would have said, look, you're going to shoot Donald Trump? Well, we've got a replacement for you. I think that's, now I know that Nikki might have come second in the primary, but as I said before, rules schmools. They can just make them up. They can just change the rules when they feel like it.
Right.
So that's what would have happened in the event that that bullet had hit.
The longer I think about it, the more I'm just like, I mean, I did talk about this in previous episodes where I said, look, we could see some sort of a war breakout and martial law just simply declared an emergency. And then, I mean, what I was worried about is, I mean, the moment one person in the 70 million that voted for Trump does any kind of violence, if Trump was to be shot, it basically justifies them unleashing everything from the intelligence state, taking all of the guns. We need to accelerate these rules. We've got emergency laws, martial law declared. I mean, we would see just complete bedlam. What would have happened? And the reason we're talking about any of this, guys, is because we were truly an inch away from the Australian economy just being decimated.
1/10 of an inch. Just needed to hit his skull a little bit and his skull would have blown up.
Yeah, I mean, this nearly happened, and it could. And let's be honest, this could happen again. And no, I don't think anyone here around this table was surprised that someone tried to assassinate Trump. Like, it was shocking, but it wasn't surprising.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be living under a rock not to have expected something like this to have been attempted.
Yeah. The only thing that was surprising was kind of how it happened, I think, rather than that it did happen.
Yeah.
And I will say, I noticed that Dana White, president of the UFC, is on making a speech. I have to make a comment.
I was about to
as
put
a
him
UFC veteran, I had to comment.
I'm actually about to click play, but I just wanted to say it was an interesting point by Tim Pool. He said, you know how they always say, October surprise this, October surprise that. He's like, what the hell could be an October surprise that outdoes any of the stuff we've seen this year? I mean, seriously. Anyway, I did want to play this for you guys. For those of you that are on X right now, we have reached 200. We've reached almost 1,000 concurrent viewers. Keep retweeting it. Trump is imminently about to hop on. I'm about to play a bit of Dana White's speech. He looks like he's just finished now, but I don't know how. It looks like it went for a while, but this is some of the comments that he had to say. Good old Dana. So he's known Trump well before he was president.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
I'll bring up a comment about that.
I'm the CEO and president of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. So 2 weeks ago, I got a call from President Trump asking me if I'd be willing to speak tonight. As usual, there was no pressure, no demands. He asked me as a friend, and of course I said yes. Then, after I accepted his offer, he sent me a text message, and I just want to read to you a little piece of what President Trump wrote to me. Dana, I'm so honored that you will be doing the introduction at the National Republican Convention. Think of it as the biggest fight you ever had, a fight for our country and even the world. I only wish you didn't have to interrupt your family trip, but I hope they understand they love you and they know how important this is.
That's epic. Isn't that epic, Elvis?
Yeah.
Now think about this. This man's running for president of the United States. He's fighting for the future of this country, and he's concerned about interrupting my family trip. That's the President Trump that I know. A man who truly cares about people. The mainstream media likes to push the narrative that he doesn't care about anyone but himself. I absolutely know that's not the truth because I've been friends with this guy for 25 years. And for the people who know me, they'll know this is true. I just want to make something very clear. Nobody in the Trump campaign has ever told me what to say. Nobody tells me what to say, and I'm nobody's puppet.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to do this. Trump is on stage right now. I'm just going to go to the live section. Here you go.
While they're singing, I'll mention that I met Trump and Dana at the same time. So the first time I fought in the UFC was UFC 30 in 2000 at the Trump Taj Mahal, as I mentioned at a previous podcast. And obviously, I know I've only met Trump once, but I've met Dana numerous times, and I've known him for years. And thankfully, he still remembers me and refers to me in many of his podcasts again as the pioneer of Australian MMA. So that's pretty cool.
Amazing.
Rami, if you could possibly turn up the desk one, is that possible? No. That's all good. Look, don't have to mess around with it. That's okay for now. If you're listening now, Trump is coming on. I do believe he's about to speak. Give this a share. If you're not following already, guys, if you all followed me, I would go up by about 20% today, 16%. Give us a follow. I will be doing more streams like this, including for the Democratic National Convention on the 19th of August. I'll be streaming the debates between the president and the vice president as well, with all of those coming up. And of course on election night. But give us a follow, give this a share. I'm going to keep streaming even after Trump's speech, but I expect this to go for at least 30 minutes as he outlays what he's running on and perhaps opining a little bit on what he's been going through, what his thoughts are since the shooting. Many people have those My Pillows on their ears at the convention, which is hilarious to me. Melania did just join at the last minute, despite the Democrats saying that she's abandoned him.
Creeps.
Enjoy, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. Wow. And thank you, Dana. Thank you, Kid Rock, sometimes referred to as Bob. And thank you, Lee, right from the beginning. Thank you very much. What a talent. What a beautiful, beautiful soul. Thank you. Friends, delegates, and fellow citizens, I stand before you this evening with a message of confidence, strength, and hope. 4 months from now, we will have an incredible victory, and we will begin the 4 greatest years in the history of our country. Together, we will launch a new era of safety, prosperity, and freedom for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. The discord and division in our society must be healed. We must heal it quickly. As Americans, we are bound together by a single fate and a shared destiny. We rise together or we fall apart. I am running to be president for all of America, not half of America, because there is no victory in winning for half of America. So tonight, with faith and devotion, I proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States. Thank you.
There we go. Yeah, leave that up.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And we will do it right. Going to do it right. Let me begin this evening by expressing my gratitude to the American people for your outpouring of love and support following the assassination attempt at my rally on Saturday. As you already know, the assassin's bullet came within a quarter of an inch of taking my life. So many people have asked me, what happened? Tell us what happened, please. And therefore, I will tell you exactly what happened, and you'll never hear it from me a second time because it's actually too painful to tell. It was a warm, beautiful day in the early evening in Butler Township in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Music was loudly playing, and the campaign was doing really well. I went to the stage, and the crowd was cheering wildly. Everybody was happy. I began speaking very strongly, powerfully, and happily because I was discussing the great job my administration did on immigration at the southern border. We were very proud of it. Behind me and to the right was a large screen that was displaying a chart of border crossings under my leadership. The numbers were absolutely amazing. In order to see the chart, I started to, like this, turn to my right and was ready to begin a little bit further turn, which I'm very lucky I didn't do, when I heard a loud whizzing sound and felt something hit me really, really hard on my right ear. I said to myself, wow, what was that? It can only be a bullet. And moved my right hand to my ear, brought it down. My hand was covered with blood, just absolutely blood all over the place. I immediately knew it was very serious, that we were under attack, and in one movement proceeded to drop to the ground. Bullets were continuing to fly as very brave Secret Service agents rushed to the stage, and they really did. They rushed to the stage. These are great people at great risk, I will tell you, and pounced on top of me so that I would be protected. There was blood pouring everywhere, and yet, in a certain way, I felt very safe because I had God on my side. I felt that. The amazing thing is that prior to the shot, if I had not moved my head at that very last instant, the assassin's bullet would have perfectly hit its mark, and I would not be here tonight. We would not be together. The most incredible aspect of what took place on that terrible evening in the fading sun was actually seen later. In almost all cases, as you probably know, and when even a single bullet is fired, just a single bullet, and we had many bullets that were being fired, crowds run for the exits or stampede, but not in this case. It's very unusual. This massive crowd of tens of thousands of people stood by and didn't move an inch. In fact, many of them bravely but automatically stood up looking for where the sniper would be. They knew immediately it was a sniper, and then began pointing at him. You can see that if you look at the group behind me. That was just a small group compared to what was in front. Nobody ran, and by not stampeding, many lives were saved. But that isn't the reason that they didn't move. The reason is that they knew I was in very serious trouble. They saw it. They saw me go down. They saw the blood and thought, actually most did, that I was dead. They knew it was a shot to the head. They saw the blood. And there's an interesting statistic. The ears are the bloodiest part. If something happens with the ears, they bleed more than any other part of the body. For whatever reason, the doctors told me that. I said, why is there so much blood? He said, it's the ears. They bleed more. So we learned something, but they just, this beautiful crowd, they didn't want to leave me. They knew I was in trouble. They didn't want to leave me. And You can see that love written all over their faces. Incredible people. They're incredible people. Bullets were flying over us, yet I felt serene. But now the Secret Service agents were putting themselves in peril. They were in very dangerous territory. Bullets were flying right over them, missing them by a very small amount of inches. And then it all stopped. Our Secret Service sniper, from a much greater distance and with only one bullet used, took the assassin's life, took him out. I'm not supposed to be here tonight. Not supposed to be here. Yeah. Thank you. But I'm not. And I'll tell you, I stand before you in this arena only by the grace of Almighty God. In watching the reports over the last few days, many people say it was a providential moment. Probably was. When I rose surrounded by Secret Service, the crowd was confused because they thought I was dead, and there was great, great sorrow. I could see that on their faces as I looked out. They didn't know I was looking out. They thought it was over. But I could see it, and I wanted to do something to let them know I was okay. I raised my right arm, looked at the thousands and thousands of people that were breathlessly waiting, and started shouting, "Fight, fight, fight." Thank you. Once my clenched fist went up, and it was high into the air. You've all seen that. The crowd realized I was okay and roared with pride for our country like no crowd I have ever heard before. Never heard anything like it. For the rest of my life, I will be grateful for the love shown by that giant audience of patriots that stood bravely on that fateful evening in Pennsylvania. Tragically, the shooter claimed the life of one of our fellow Americans, Corey Comparator. Unbelievable person, everybody tells me. Unbelievable. And seriously wounded, two other great warriors. Spoke to them today. David Dutch and James Copenhaver. Two great people. I also spoke to all three families of these tremendous people. Our love and prayers are with them, and always will be. We're never going to forget them. They came for a great rally. They were serious Trumpsters, I want to tell you. They were serious Trumpsters, and still are. But Corey, unfortunately, we have to use the past tense. He was incredible. He was a highly respected former fire chief, respected by everybody. Was accompanied by his wife, Helen, incredible woman. I spoke to her today, devastated, and two precious daughters. He lost his life selflessly acting as a human shield to protect them from flying bullets. He went right over the top of them and was hit. What a fine man he was. I want to thank the fire department and the family for sending his helmet, his outfit, and it was just something, and they're going to do something very special when they get it. But we did something which cannot match what happened, not even close. But I am very proud to say that over the past few days, we've raised $6.3 million for the families of David, James, and Corey, including from a friend of mine just called up. He sent me a check right here. I just got it. $1 million from Dan Newland. Thank you, Dan. And again, when speaking to the family, I told them, I said, well, I'm going to be sending you a lot of money, but it can't compensate. They all said the same thing. You're right, sir. We appreciate so much what you're doing, but nothing can take the place in the case of Corey and the other two. By the way, they were very, very seriously injured, but now they're doing very well. They're going to be okay. They're going to be doing very well. They're warriors. So now I ask that we observe a moment of silence in honor of our friend Corey. There is no greater love than to lay down one's life for others. This is the spirit that forged America in her darkest hours, and this is the love that will lead America back to the summit of human achievement and greatness. This is what we need. Despite such a heinous attack, we unite this evening more determined than ever. I am more determined than ever, and so are you. So is everybody in this room. Thank you. Thank you very much. Our resolve is unbroken and our purpose is unchanged to deliver a government that serves the American people better than ever before. Nothing will stop me in this mission because our vision is righteous and our cause is pure. No matter what obstacle comes our way, we will not break, we will not bend, we will not back down, and I will never stop fighting for you, your family, and our magnificent country. Never. And everything I have to give with all of the energy and fight in my heart and soul, I pledge to our nation tonight. Thank you very much. I pledge that to our nation. We're going to turn our nation around, and we're going to do it very quickly. Thank you. This election should be about the issues facing our country and how to make America successful, safe, free, and great again. In an age when our politics too often divide us, now is the time to remember that we are all fellow citizens. We are one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we must not criminalize dissent or demonize political disagreement, which is what's been happening in our country lately at a level that nobody has ever seen before. In that spirit, the Democrat Party should immediately stop weaponizing the justice system and labeling their political opponent as an enemy of democracy. Especially since That is not true. In fact, I am the one saving democracy for the people of our country. And very big news, as you probably just read, on Monday a major ruling was handed down from a highly respected federal judge in Florida, Eileen Cannon, finding that the prosecutor and the fake documents case against me were totally unconstitutional, and the entire case was thrown out of court. With all of that publicity, thrown out of court. If Democrats want to unify our country, they should drop these partisan witch hunts, which I have been going through for approximately 8 years. And they should do that without delay and allow an election to proceed that is worthy of our people. We're going to win it anyway, but worthy of our people. On this journey, I am deeply honored to be joined by my amazing wife, Melania. And Melania, thank you very much. You also did something really beautiful, a letter to America calling for national unity, and it really took the Republican Party by surprise. I will tell you, it was beautiful. In fact, some very serious people said that we should take that letter and put it as part of the Republican platform. That would be an honor, wouldn't it? Right, Mr. Congressman? But it captivated so many, so I also want to thank my entire family for being here. Don, Kimberly, Ivanka and Jared, Eric and Lara, Tiffany and Michael, Barron. We love our Barron. And of course, my 10 wonderful grandchildren. You saw a few of them up there on my lap before. And how good was Dana? Was Dana good? I mean, was he good? You know, he was on probably the only vacation he's had in about, maybe ever, because he works, but about 10 years with his wife, very far away. I won't tell you where, but very, very far away, beautiful place. And my people called, and he said, yeah, I won't be able to do it. This is many, many years. I promised my wife I can't do it. And they came in, they said, Dana won't be able to do it, because he was my first, second, and third choice. I said, well, you know, that's too bad, but I understand he's away, and it's good. It's good for him. And that was it. About 30 minutes later, she came back in, sir, Dana just called. He's going to do it. And his wife, she said, you can't turn him down. You just can't do it. You have to go. That's a good wife. So he got on a plane. He got here a little while ago. Now he's going to get on the plane in a little while, and he's going to go back home to his wife. But they're great, and I just want to thank her and him and their whole family, because that's not easy. And Kid Rock, same thing. Called, he said, I want to be a part of it. I want to be a part, because, you know, Kid does his great song, Big, Big Monster song. I had no idea. You know, he became a friend of mine over the last 10 years. And he's amazing. Everyone loves him. I didn't even know how big he was. You know, he has rallies, 35,000, 40,000 people he gets every time he goes out. I think he's making so much money, he doesn't know what the hell to do with it. You want to know? And then we have my other friend, and I've known him so long, and we took that song, and it was a big success, but we made that I saw a chart of great songs to America. That was #1 on the chart recently, #1. So that's Lee Greenwood, a very special, beautiful person. He's a beautiful man. But they all wanted to be here. They called. And how about the Hulkster? How good was he? Is he up? Where is he? Boy, oh boy. You know, they may call that entertainment. I know about entertainment, but when he used to lift a 350-pound man over his shoulders and then bench press him 2 rows into the audience, I say maybe entertainment, but he is one strong son of a gun. I will tell you, I watched it many times. There aren't a lot of entertainers that can do that, right? You were fantastic. Thank you very much. Followed by Eric. What was that all about? Boy, that was good. I didn't want to really come up here. But he was so great, and he's such a good young man. He went through a lot of trouble, and Don last night was incredible. They went through so much trouble. They got subpoenaed more than any people probably in the history of the United States. Every week they get another subpoena from the Democrats, crazy Nancy Pelosi, the whole thing, just boom, boom, boom. They've got to stop that because they're destroying our country. We have to work on making America great again, not on beating people. And we won. We beat them and all. We beat them on the impeachments. We beat them on indictments. We beat them. But the time that you have to spend, if they would devote that genius to helping our country, we'd have a much stronger and better country. And Jason, the biggest star in country music. Jason, thank you for being here. Jason, thank you very much. Jason Aldean, he's good. I like his wife even better, by the way. She's here. Thank you, Jason. But I'm thrilled to have a new friend and partner fighting by my side. The next Vice President of the United States, the current Senator from Ohio, J.D. Vance, and his incredible wife, Usha. He's going to be a great Vice President. He's going to be great. He'll be with this country and with this movement, greatest movement in the history of our country, Make America Great Again. When they criticize it, they say, we're going to try and stop MAGA. I said, MAGA is Make America Great Again. What are you going to stop? There's nothing to stop. Then they say, oh, that's right. It's very tough to fight it. And all of the people that did try and fight it have failed. But he's going to be with us for a long time, and it was an honor to select him. Great, great student at Yale. His wife was a great student at Yale. They met at Yale. These are two smart people. So, J.D., you're going to be doing this for a long time. Enjoy the ride. And a very special thank you to the extraordinary people of Milwaukee and the great state of... Oh, there they are. There they are. You are so easy to spot. And Green Bay's going to have a good team this year, right? They're going to have a good team. They're going to have a good team. Most of the audience doesn't like it, but it's true. You're going to have a very good team this year. And by the way, Wisconsin, we are spending over $250 million here, creating jobs and other economic development all over the place. So I hope you will remember this in November and give us your vote. I am trying to buy your vote. I'll be honest about that. And I promise we will make Wisconsin great again. We're going to make it. Thank you, Mr. Governor. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm here tonight to lay out a vision for the whole nation. To every citizen, whether you're a young or old man or woman, Democrat, Republican, or independent, black or white, Asian or Hispanic, I extend to you a hand of loyalty and of friendship. Together we will lead America to new heights of greatness like the world has never seen before. We were right there in the first term. We got hit with COVID. We did a great job. Nobody knew what it was, but nobody's ever seen an economy pre-COVID. And then we handed over a stock market that was substantially higher than just prior to COVID. Coming in, did a great job. Never got credit for that. We got credit for the war and defeating ISIS and so many things, the great economy, the biggest tax cuts ever, the biggest regulation cuts ever, the creation of Space Force, the rebuilding of our military. We did so much. We did so much. Right to try. Right to try is a big deal. We got right to try. They were trying to get that for 52 years. Somebody's terminally ill. And hopefully there's nobody in this audience, but it does happen a lot. They're terminally ill and they can't use our new space-age drugs and other things that we are way ahead. We have the greatest doctors in the world, the greatest laboratories in the world, and you can't do it. They've been trying to get that approved for 52 years. Wasn't that easy? The insurance companies didn't want to do it. They didn't want the risk. The labs didn't want to do it because if it didn't work, people are pretty far down the line toward death. They didn't want to do it. The doctors didn't want to have it on their records, so I got everybody into an office. 52 years they tried. Sounds simple, but it's not. And I got them to agree that somebody that needs it will, instead of going to Asia, Europe, or someplace, or if you have no money going home and dying, just die. We got them to sign an agreement, agree to it, where they're not going to sue anybody. They're going to get all of this stuff. They're going to get it really fast. And what's happened is we're saving thousands and thousands of lives. It's incredible. Right to try. It's a great feeling. Under our leadership, the United States will be respected again. No nation will question our power. No enemy will doubt our might. Our borders will be totally secure. Our economy will soar. We will return law and order to our streets, patriotism to our schools, and importantly, we will restore peace, stability, and harmony all throughout the world. But to achieve this future, we must first rescue our nation from failed and even incompetent leadership. We have totally incompetent leadership. This will be the most important election in the history of our country. Under the current administration, we are indeed a nation in decline. We have an inflation crisis that is making life unaffordable, ravaging the incomes of working and low-income families, and crushing, just simply crushing our people like never before. They've never seen anything like it. We also have an illegal immigration crisis, and it's taking place right now as we sit here in this beautiful arena. It's a massive invasion at our southern border that has spread misery, crime, poverty, disease, and destruction to communities all across our land. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Then there's an international crisis, the likes of which the world has seldom been part of. Nobody can believe what's happening. War is now raging in Europe and the Middle East. A growing specter of conflict hangs over Taiwan, Korea, the Philippines, and all of Asia. And our planet is teetering on the edge of World War III. And this will be a war like no other war because of weaponry. The weapons are no longer army tanks going back and forth shooting at each other. These weapons are obliteration. It's time for a change. This administration can't come close to solving the problems. We're dealing with very tough, very fierce people. They're fierce people. And we don't have fierce people. We have people that are a lot less than fierce, except when it comes to cheating on elections and a couple of other things. Then they're fierce. Then they're fierce. So tonight, I make this pledge to the great people of America. I will end the devastating inflation crisis immediately, bring down interest rates, and lower the cost of energy. We will drill, baby, drill. Can you believe what they're doing? But by doing that, we will lead a large-scale decline in prices. Prices will start to come down. Energy raised it. They took our energy policies and destroyed them. Then they immediately went back to them, but by that time, so much was lost. But we will do it at levels that nobody's ever seen before, and we'll end lots of different things. We'll start paying off debt and start lowering taxes even further. We gave you the largest tax cut. We'll do it more. You know, people don't realize I brought taxes way down, way down, and yet we took in more revenues the following year than we did when the tax rate was much higher. Most people said, how did you do that? Because it was incentive. Everybody was coming to the country. They were bringing back billions and billions of dollars into our country. The companies made it impossible to bring it back. The tax rate was too high, and the legal complications were far too great. I changed both of them, and hundreds of billions of dollars by Apple and so many other companies were brought back into our nation, and we had an economy the likes of which no nation had ever seen. China, we were beating them at levels that were incredible. And they know it. They know it. We'll do it again, but we'll do it even better. I will end the illegal immigration crisis by closing our border and finishing the wall, most of which I've already built. On the wall, we were dealing with a very difficult Congress. And I said, oh, that's okay. We won't go to Congress. I call it an invasion. We gave our military almost $800 billion. I said, I'm going to take a little of that money because this is an invasion. And we built, most of the wall is already built. And we built it through using the funds because what's better than that? We have to stop the invasion into our country that's killing hundreds of thousands of people a year. We're not going to let that happen. I will end every single international crisis that the current administration has created, including the horrible war with Russia and Ukraine, which would have never happened if I was president, and the war caused by the attack on Israel, which would have never happened if I was president. Iran was broke. Iran had no money. Now Iran has $250 billion. They made it all over the last 2.5 years. They were broke. I watched the other day on a show called Deface the Nation. Has anyone seen it? And they had a congressman who was a Democrat say, well, whether you like him or not, Iran was broke dealing with Trump. I told China and other countries, if you buy from Iran, we will not let you do any business in this country, and we will put tariffs on every product you do send in of 100% or more. And they said to me, well, I think that's about it. They weren't going to buy any oil. And they were ready to make a deal. Iran was going to make a deal with us. And then we had that horrible, horrible result that we'll never let happen again. The election result, we're never going to let that happen again. They used COVID to cheat. We're never going to let it happen again. And they took off all the sanctions, and they did everything possible for Iran. And now Iran is very close to having a nuclear weapon, which would have never happened. This is a shame what this administration, the damage that this administration has done. And I say it often, if you took the 10 worst presidents in the history of the United States, think of it, the 10 worst, added them up, they will not have done the damage that Biden has done. Only going to use the term once. Biden, I'm not going to use the name anymore, just one time. The damage that he's done to this country is unthinkable. It's unthinkable. Together we will restore vision, strength, competence, and we're going to have a thing called common sense making most of our decisions, actually. It's all common sense. Just a few short years ago, under my presidency, we had the most secure border and best economy in the history of our country, in the history of the world. We had the greatest economy in the history of the world. We had never done anything like it. We were beating every country, including China, by leaps and bounds. Nobody had seen anything like it. We had no inflation. Soaring incomes were going. Nobody can believe it. You can't believe what happened 4 years ago is happening now in reverse. And the world was at peace. Inflation has been a killer for our country. No matter what you make it doesn't matter, because inflation is eating you alive. People that were putting away money, they were making great wages, the highest they've ever made, but they were putting away a lot of money. Now they are just being destroyed. They're not putting away anything. They're barely living. They're going into savings accounts. They're taking out their money to live because of inflation. Inflation, remember, it's called a country buster. You can go back to Germany from 100 years ago. You can go back to any country that suffered great inflation. We've suffered the worst inflation we've ever had. But go back and see what's happened to those countries. We've had the worst inflation we've ever had under this person. But in less than 4 years, our opponents have turned incredible success into unparalleled tragedy and failure. It's been a tremendous failure. Today, our cities are flooded with illegal aliens. Americans are being squeezed out of the labor force, and their jobs are taken. And by the way, you know who's taking the jobs that are created? 107% of those jobs are taken by illegal aliens. And you know who's being hurt the most by millions of people pouring into our country? The black population and the Hispanic population, because they're taking the jobs from our black population, our Hispanic population, and they're also taking them from unions. The unions are suffering because of it. Thank you. Thank you. I like you too. Thank you very much. Inflation has wiped out the life savings of our citizens and forced the middle class into a state of depression and despair. That's what it is. It's despair and depression. We cannot and will not let this continue. Less than 4 years ago, we were a great nation, and we will soon be a great nation again. We're going to be a great nation again. Thank you. With proper leadership, every disaster we are now enduring will be fixed, and it will be fixed very, very quickly. So tonight, whether you've supported me in the past or not, I hope you will support me in the future, because I will bring back the American dream. That's what we're going to do. You don't even hear about the American dream anymore. With great humility, I am asking you to be excited about the future of our country. Be excited. Be excited. And by the way, the news reports, look at all of those big networks. Look at them. They're all here. But every one of them has said this could be the most organized, best run, and most enthusiastic convention of either party that they've ever seen. Every single one. And it's true. It's true. And there's love in the room. There's great love in the room. So I better finish strong. Otherwise, we'll blow it, and we can't let that happen. Now, this was great. All of the great people that spoke, and everybody hit a home run. I mean, there's not one that I can think of where I said, oh, gee, that wasn't great. Every single person. I refuse to be the only one. Don't do that to me. They're already getting ready. See, I gave them an idea. Now, this was a great convention. This was, I think we're actually going to go home and miss it. You know, usually with first of all, Look at these crowds. You'd never have this at a convention. Look at these crowds. Love, it's about love. This week, the entire Republican Party has formally adopted an agenda for America's renewal, and you saw that agenda, and it's very short compared to the long, boring, meaningless agendas of the past, including the Democrats. They write these things that are hundreds of pages long, and they never read them after they're done. In their case, fortunately, they don't read them because they're pretty bad. It's a series of bold promises that we will swiftly implement when you give us a Republican House. And Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. We have our great Speaker of the House with us tonight. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Thank you. A Republican Senate, we have many senators here. And send me back to our beautiful White House just a few short months from now. We're talking about just months. It can't come fast enough. We have to get it done. First, we must get economic relief to our citizens. Starting on day one, we will drive down prices and make America affordable again. We have to make it affordable. It's not affordable. People can't live like this. Under this administration, our current administration, groceries are up 57%, gasoline is up 60% and 70%, mortgage rates have quadrupled. And the fact is, it doesn't matter what they are because you can't get the money anyway. You can't buy houses. Young people can't get any financing to buy a house. The total household costs have increased an average of $28,000 per family under this administration. Republicans have a plan to bring down prices and bring them down very, very rapidly. By slashing energy costs, we will in turn reduce the cost of transportation, manufacturing, and all household goods. So much starts with energy. And remember, we have more liquid gold under our feet than any other country by far. We are a nation that has the opportunity to make an absolute fortune with its energy. We have it, and China doesn't. Under the Trump administration, just 3.5 years ago, we were energy independent, but soon we will actually be better than that. We will be energy dominant and supply not only ourselves, but we will supply the rest of the world with numbers that nobody has ever seen, and we will reduce our debt, $36 trillion. We will start reducing that, and we will also reduce your taxes still further. Next, and by the way, they want to raise your taxes 4 times, think of it. And all my life I grew up watching politicians. I always loved politics, I guess. I was on the other side. I'd watch and they were always talking about, we will give you a tax cut. We will give you a tax cut. My whole life I was watching, I will give you a tax cut, right, Mr. Congressman? That's all they talked about. This is the only administration that said, we're going to raise your taxes by 4 times what you're paying now, and people are supposed to vote for them? I've never heard it. You're paying too much. We're going to reduce your taxes still further. We gave you the biggest one, as I said. We're going to give you more, and it's going to lead to tremendous growth. We want growth in our country. That's what's going to pay off our debt. And next, we will end the ridiculous and actually incredible waste of taxpayer dollars that is fueling the inflation crisis. They spent trillions of dollars on things having to do with the Green New Scam. It's a scam. And that's caused tremendous inflationary pressures in addition to the cost of energy. And all of the trillions of dollars that are sitting there not yet spent, we will redirect that money for important projects like roads, bridges, dams, and we will not allow it to be spent on meaningless green new scam ideas. And I will end the electric vehicle mandate on day one. thereby saving the U.S. auto industry from complete obliteration, which is happening right now, and saving U.S. customers thousands and thousands of dollars per car. And right now, as we speak, large factories just started are being built across the border in Mexico. So with all the other things happening on our border, and they're being built by China to make cars and to sell them into our country, no tax, no anything. The United Auto Workers ought to be ashamed for allowing this to happen. And the leader of the United Auto Workers should be fired immediately. And every single auto worker, union and non-union, should be voting for Donald Trump, because we're going to bring back car manufacturing, and we're going to bring it back fast. They're building some of the largest auto plants anywhere in the world. Think of it, in the world. We're going to bring it back. We're going to make them. We don't mind that happening, but those plants are going to be built in the United States, and our people are going to man those plants. And if they don't agree with us, we'll put a tariff of approximately 100 to 200% on each car, and they will be unsellable in the United States. We have long been taken advantage of by other countries. And think of it, oftentimes these other countries are considered so-called allies. They've taken advantage of us for years. We lose jobs, we lose revenue, and they gain everything and wipe out our businesses, wipe out our people. I stopped it for 4 years. I stopped it, and we're really ready to make changes like nobody had seen before. And remember, USMCA, I got rid of NAFTA, the worst trade deal ever made, and replaced it with USMCA, which is, they say, the best trade deal ever made. Actually, probably the best trade deal was the deal I made with China, where they buy $50 billion worth of our product. They were buying nothing. They buy $50 billion worth. They had to. But I don't even talk about it because of COVID. I don't even mention it, frankly, because of what happened with the China virus. We will not let countries come in, take our jobs, and plunder our nation. They come and do that. They plunder our nation. The way they will sell their product in America is to build it in America. Very simple. Build it in America and only in America. And this very simple formula, and Congress has to go along with us, and they will. This very simple formula will create massive numbers of jobs. We will take over the auto industry again, and many, many hundreds of thousands of jobs. We lost so many jobs over the years. If you go back 20, 25 years, they've stolen, going to China and Mexico, about 68% of our auto industry manufacturing jobs. We're going to get them all back. We're going to get them all back, every one of them. At the center of our plan for economic relief are massive tax cuts for workers that include something else that's turned out to be very popular, actually. Here it's very popular, in this building and all those hotels that I saw that are so nice. I'm staying in a nice one. It's called no tax on tips. No tax on tips. No tax on tips. I got that by having dinner recently in Nevada, where we're leading by about 14 points. Hello. I'll see you there very soon, everybody. And we're having dinner at a beautiful restaurant in the Trump building on the Strip, and it's a great building, and the waitress comes over. How's everything going? A really nice person. How's everything? Oh, sir, it's so tough. The government's after me all the time on tips, tips, tips. I said, well, they give you cash. Would they be able to find him? She said, actually, and I didn't know this, she said, very little cash is given. It's all put right on the check. And they come in and they take so much of our money, it's just ridiculous, and they don't believe anything we say. And they've just hired, as you know, 88,000 agents to go after him even more. And I said, this shows the level of my, most people go out, they hire consultants, they pay them millions of dollars. But I said to her, let me just ask you a question. Would you be happy if you had no tax on tips? She said, what a great idea. I got my information from a very smart waitress. That's better than spending millions of dollars. And everybody loves it. Waitresses and caddies and drivers and everybody. It's a large group of people that are being really hurt badly. They make money, let them keep their money. I'm going to protect Social Security and Medicare. Democrats are going to destroy Social Security and Medicare because all of these people, by the millions they're coming in, they're going to be on Social Security and Medicare and other things, and you're not able to afford it. They are destroying your Social Security and your Medicare. Under my plan, incomes will skyrocket, inflation will vanish completely, jobs will come roaring back, and the middle class will prosper like never, ever before, and we're going to do it very rapidly. But no hope or dream we have for America can succeed unless we stop the illegal immigrant invasion, the worst that's ever been seen anywhere in the world. There's never been an invasion like this anywhere. Third world countries would fight with sticks and stones not to let this happen. The invasion at our southern border, we will stop it, and we will stop it quickly. You heard Tom Homan yesterday. Tom Homan, put him in charge and just sit back and watch. Brandon Judd, the Border Patrol, he's incredible. These guys, they really, their job is a lot easier if they don't have to do anything, but they want to. They're patriots. Brandon Judd, Border Patrol, ICE. ICE goes out. You have to see what ICE does with MS-13. You have these are probably the worst gang, and ICE goes in there. And I know a lot of people in these rows here, and they're very tough people, but they don't want to do this job. They'll go into a pack of MS-13 killers. They're the worst. Probably the worst gangs in the world. We have thousands of them. I moved thousands and thousands out in my 4 years. We moved them out, and it was a pleasure. But ICE would go right into a pack of these killers, and you see fists flying, you see everything flying, and then they take them. They put them in a paddy wagon. They take them back, and they get them out of our country. And the other countries weren't accepting them back, and I called up, and I said, tell them that we're not giving them economic aid anymore. And the next day, I got calls from all of these countries that were terminated. Billions of dollars we spend on economic aid to countries that does us, frankly, no good. And the next day, I was called by everybody. I couldn't take all the calls. Sir, what's the problem? I said, you won't take your killers back that you sent in caravans into America. You won't take them back. Well, sir, if you'd like us to, we would give very serious consideration to doing that. And within 24 hours, they were being taken back. For years and years, when I first came in, they said President Obama tried to get him to go back, and they wouldn't accept him. They'd put planes on the runway so you couldn't leave the plane. They'd close the road so you couldn't take the buses. They'd all have to turn back. As soon as I said no more economic aid of any kind to any country that does that, they called back and they said, sir, it would be our great honor to take MS-13. We love them very much. We love them very much, sir. We'll take them back. At the heart of the Republican platform is our pledge to end this border nightmare and fully restore the sacred and sovereign borders of the United States of America, and we're going to do that on day one. That means two things on day one, right? Drill, baby, drill, and close our borders. And by the way, and I think everybody as a Republican, as a patriot in this room, and most Democrats, we want people to come into our country, but they have to come into our country legally. Legally. Less than 4 years ago, I handed this administration the strongest border in American history. But you can see on the chart that saved my life, that was the chart that saved my life. I said, look it, I'm so proud of it. I think it's one of the greatest. It was done by the Border Patrol, one of the greatest charts I've ever seen. It showed everything just like that. You know the chart. Oh, there it is. That's pretty good. Wow. Last time I put up that chart, I never really got to look at it. But without that chart, I would not be here today. Never got to look at it. I said, you got to see this chart. I was so proud of it, and by the time I got to there, I never got to see it that day. But I'm seeing it now, and I was very proud. If you look at the arrow on the bottom, that's the lowest level, the one on the bottom, heavy red arrow. That's the lowest level of illegal immigrants ever to come into our country in recorded history, right there. Right there. And that was my last week in office. And then you see what happened after I left. Look at the rest. And if you go out a little bit further, it's getting to be a little bit old, but I love it anyway, right? But you can go much higher with those numbers. Look what happened right after that. The invasion began. We had the opposite. We stopped the invasion. But the invasion that we stopped was peanuts by comparison to what happened after I left. Look at what happened after I left. They took over our country. We ended all catch and release. We shut down asylum fraud. We stopped human trafficking and forged historic agreements to keep illegal aliens on foreign soil. We want them to stay on their soil. Under the Trump administration, if you came in illegally, you were apprehended immediately and you were deported. You went right back. The current administration terminated every single one of those great Trump policies that I put in place to seal the border. I wanted a sealed border. Again, come in, but come in legally. You know how unfair it is? So many people, hundreds of thousands of people, have been working for years to come into our country. And now they see these people pour into our country at levels that are unprecedented, so unfair. And we're not going to do it. We're not going to stand for it. They suspended wall construction, ended remain in Mexico. We had a policy, remain in Mexico. You think that was easy to get from the Mexican government? But I said, you must give it to us. If you don't give it to us, there will be repercussions. And they gave it to us, but not easy. Canceled our Safe Third agreements, demolished Title 42, implemented nationwide catch and release. That's catch and release, where we catch them and release them into our country. We catch them and release them into Mexico. There's a slight difference. And took 93, this is the previous administration, 93 executive actions to throw open our border to the world. The entire world is pouring into our country because of this very foolish administration. The greatest invasion in history is taking place right here in our country. They are coming in from every corner of the earth, not just from South America, but from Africa, Asia, the Middle East. They're coming from everywhere. They're coming at levels that we've never seen before. It is an invasion indeed, and this administration does absolutely nothing to stop them. They're coming from prisons. They're coming from jails. They're coming from mental institutions and insane asylums. You know, the press is always on me because I say this. Has anyone seen Silence of the Lambs? The late, great Hannibal Lecter. He'd love to have you for dinner. That's insane asylums. They're emptying out their insane asylums. And terrorists are coming in at numbers that we've never seen before. Bad things are going to happen. Meanwhile, our crime rate is going up, while crime statistics all over the world are going down, because they're taking their criminals and they're putting them into our country. A certain country, and I happen to like the president of that country very much, but he's been getting great publicity because he's a wonderful shepherd of the country. He says how well the country's doing because their crime rate is down. And he said he's training all of these rough people. They're rough. He's training them. And I've been reading about this for 2 years. I think, oh, that's wonderful. Let's take a look at it. But then I realized he's not training them. He's sending all of his criminals, his drug dealers, his people that are in jails, he's sending them all to the United States. And he's different in that he doesn't say that. He's trying to convince everybody what a wonderful job he does in running the country. Well, he doesn't do a wonderful job. And by the way, if I ran one of the countries, many countries from all over, I would be worse than any of them. I would have had the place totally emptied out already. But we become a dumping ground for the rest of the world, which is laughing at us. They think we're stupid. And they can't believe that they're getting away with what they're getting away with, but they're not going to be getting away with it for long. That's what I can tell you. In Venezuela, Caracas, high crime. Caracas, Venezuela, really a dangerous place, but not anymore. Because in Venezuela, crime is down 72%. In fact, if they would ever win this election, I hate to even say that, we will have our next Republican convention in Venezuela because it will be safe. Our cities will be so unsafe, we will not be able to have it there. In El Salvador, murders are down by 70%. Why are they down? Now, he would have you convinced that because he's trained murderers to be wonderful people. No. They're down because they're sending their murderers to the United States of America. This is going to be very bad. And bad things are going to happen, and you're seeing it happen all the time. That's why, to keep our families safe, the Republican platform promises to launch the largest deportation operation in the history of our country. Even larger than that of President Dwight D. Eisenhower from many years ago. You know, he was a moderate, but he believed very strongly in borders. He had the largest deportation operation we've ever had. Just recently, I spoke to the grieving mother of Jocelyn Nungary, a wonderful woman, a precious 12-year-old girl from Houston who last month was tied up, assaulted, and strangled to death after walking to the convenience store just a block away from her house. Her body was dumped near the side of the road in a shallow creek, found by some onlookers who couldn't believe what they had witnessed. Charged with Jocelyn's heinous murder are 2 illegal aliens from Venezuela who came across our border, were in custody, and were then released into the country by this horrible, horrible administration that we have right now. I also met recently with the heartbroken mother and sister of Rachel Morin. Rachel was a 37-year-old mom of 5 beautiful children who was brutally raped and murdered while out on a run. She wanted to keep herself in good shape. It was very important to her. She was murdered. The monster responsible first killed another woman in El Salvador before he was led into America by the White House. This White House let them in. He then attacked a 9-year-old girl and her mother in a home invasion in Los Angeles before murdering Rachel in Maryland. Traveled all throughout the country, doing tremendous damage. Rachel's mother will never be the same. I spent time with her. She will never be the same. I've also met with the wonderful family of Laken Riley, the brilliant 22-year-old nursing student. She was so proud of being first in her class, who was out for a jog on the campus of the University of Georgia when she was assaulted, beaten, and horrifically killed. Yet another American life was stolen by a criminal alien set free by this administration. And these were incredible people we're talking about. These were incredible people who died. Tonight, America, this is my vow. I will not let these killers and criminals into our country. I will keep our sons and daughters safe. As we bring security to our streets, we will help bring stability to the world. I was the first president in modern times to start no new wars. You know, we were the toughest, we were the most respected. And you saw this. Hungry, strong country, run by a very powerful, tough leader. He's a tough guy. Press doesn't like him because he's tough. And he came out recently. They were asking him at an interview, the whole world is exploding. What's happening? What's going on? Viktor Orban, Prime Minister of Hungary, very tough man. He said, I don't want people coming into my country and blowing up our shopping centers and killing people. But they said to him, tell us what's going wrong, what's happening, what is it? He said, there's only one way you're going to solve it. You got to bring President Trump back to the United States because he kept everybody at bay. He used a word I wouldn't use because I can't use that word. Because you'd say it was braggadocious. The press would say he was a braggart. I'm not a braggart. But Viktor Orban said it. He said Russia was afraid of him. China was afraid of him. Everybody was afraid of him. Nothing was going to happen. The whole world was at peace. And now the world is blowing up around us. All of these things that you read about were not going to happen. Under President Bush, Russia invaded Georgia. Under President Obama, Russia took Crimea. Under the current administration, Russia is after all of Ukraine. Under President Trump, Russia took nothing. We defeated 100% of ISIS in Syria and Iraq, something that was said to take 5 years, sir. It'll take 5 years, sir. We did it in a matter of a couple of months. We have a great military. Our military is not woke. It's just some of the fools on top that are woke. I got along very well. North Korea, Kim Jong-un, I got along very well with him. The press hated when I said that. How could you get along with him? Well, you know, it's nice to get along with somebody who has a lot of nuclear weapons or otherwise, isn't it? See, in the old days, they'd say, that's a wonderful thing. Now they say, how could you possibly do that? But no, I got along with him, and we stopped the missile launchers from North Korea. Now North Korea is acting up again, but when we get back, I get along with him. He'd like to see me back, too. I think he misses me, if you want to know the truth. Our opponents inherited a world at peace and turned it into a planet of war. We're in a planet of war. Look at that attack on Israel. Look at what's happening with Ukraine. The cities are just bombed out. How can people live like that where buildings, massive buildings, are falling to the ground? It began to unravel with the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, the worst humiliation in the history of our country. We have never had a humiliation like that. 13 heroic U.S. service members were tragically and needlessly killed. 45 others were horrifically wounded. Nobody ever talks about them. No arms, no legs, face explosions, horrifically wounded. And by the way, we have a man in this room who's running for the U.S. Senate from a great state, Nevada, named Sam Brown, who paid the ultimate price. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam. Thank you. He paid the biggest price probably ever paid by anybody that is running for office, and I think he's going to do great. He's running against a person that is not good, not respected, a total lightweight. But Sam, I think, paid, really, we were talking about it with some of the senators that are working so hard for Sam, but he paid the biggest price of any senator ever to run for the Senate. I don't think anybody's ever what he did. He was a real hero, a really great person, and he's running, and I hope that everybody gets out and votes for Sam Brown. And we also left behind $85 billion worth of military equipment, along with many American citizens were left behind. Many, many American citizens, emboldened by that disaster, Russia invaded Ukraine. They saw this group of people that were incompetent. We took the soldiers out first. No, we're going to take the soldiers out second. If they would have followed my plan, we had a great plan. But the plan only kicked in if they did everything perfectly, and they weren't doing things perfectly, so we said it doesn't kick in. 18 months in Afghanistan, we didn't have one, so they were killing them left and right, snipers. And I spoke to the head of the Taliban. You've heard this story. Abdul, still there, still the head of the Taliban. The press got on me, why would you speak to him? I said, because that's where the killing is. I don't have to speak to somebody that has nothing to do with it. And I told him, don't ever do that. Don't ever do that again. Don't ever, ever do that again. You've got to stop. Because during the Obama administration, many great people and soldiers, but a lot of soldiers were being killed from long distance. I said, if you keep doing that, you're going to be hit harder than anybody's ever been hit by a country before. And he said, I understand, Your Excellency. He called me Your Excellency. I wonder if he calls the other guy Your Excellency. I doubt it. The other guy gave him everything. I mean, what kind of a deal was that? He walked out, gave him everything. Do you know that right now Afghanistan is one of the largest sellers of weapons in the world? They're selling the brand new, beautiful weapons that we gave them. But think of it. He actually said to me, but why do you show me a picture of my home? I said, you'll have to ask your people or one of your wives. But he could figure it out. And for 18 months, we had not one attack on an American soldier by the Taliban. 18 months. And then we had that horrible day where soldiers were killed. I was not there because of a ridiculous election. But we had that horrible attack. And they also gave up Bagram, one of the biggest bases anywhere in the world, air bases anywhere in the world, the longest runways, most powerful, hardened, thickened runways. We gave it up. And I liked it not because of Afghanistan. I liked it because of China. It's 1 hour away from where China makes their nuclear weapons. And you know who has it now? China has it now. We were keeping that. And now China is likewise circling Taiwan, and Russian warships and nuclear submarines are operating 60 miles off the coast in Cuba. Do you know that? No, the press refuses to write about it. If that were me running this country and we had nuclear submarines in Cuba, I will tell you that headlines every day would be, what's wrong with our president? You don't even hear this. You're not hearing about this. Russia has nuclear submarines and warships 60 miles away, Mr. Congressman, from Miami, by the way, happens to be here. Correct? In Cuba. And that would not be stood for if it were somebody else. They don't want to mention it, but now maybe they will. And the entire world, I tell you this, we want our hostages back, and they better be back before I assume office, or you will be paying a very big price. With our victory in November, the years of war, weakness, and chaos will be over. I don't have wars. I had no wars other than ISIS, which I defeated, but that was a war that was started. We had no wars. I could stop wars with a telephone call. I could stop wars with just a telephone call. If properly stated, it would never start. We will replenish our military and build an Iron Dome missile defense system to ensure that no enemy can strike our homeland. And this great Iron Dome will be built entirely in the USA. We're going to build it in the USA. And Wisconsin, just like I gave you that massive ship contract, and you're doing a very nice job, Governor, right? Thank you, Governor. And they're doing a great job. In fact, I had a little design change, and we gave them a tremendous for essentially what we used to call destroyers. These are now the most beautiful. They look like yachts. I said, we have to take the bow, and we have to make it a little nicer and a little point at the top instead of a flat nose. And the people at the shipyard said, this guy sort of knows what he's doing. We have most beautiful ships, right, Governor? And everybody's sitting over there. And it was a big contract that everybody wanted. I gave it to Wisconsin, but we're going to have a lot of that built right here in the state of Wisconsin and all other states. Israel has an Iron Dome. They have a missile defense system. 342 missiles were shot into Israel, and only one got through a little bit. It was badly wounded. It fell to the ground, but most of them are. And Ronald Reagan wanted this many years ago, but we really didn't have the technology many years ago. Remember, they called it Starship, spaceship, anything to mock him. But he was a very good president, very, very good. But now we have unbelievable technology. And why should other countries have this and we don't? No, we're going to build an Iron Dome over our country, and we're going to be sure that nothing can come and harm our people. And again, from an economic development standpoint, we're going to make it all right here. No more sending it out to other countries in order to help. It's America first. America first. We will unleash the power of American innovation. And as we do, we will soon be on the verge of finding the cures to cancer, Alzheimer's disease, and many other diseases. We're going to get to the bottom of it. You remember this gentleman that I don't want to mention other than one time I had to, because when you say the 10 worst, I had to do it. I didn't want anybody to be confused. But this man said, we're going to find a cure to cancer. Nothing happened. We're going to get to the cure for cancer and Alzheimer's and so many other things. We're so close to doing something great. But we need a leader that will let it be done. We will not have men playing in women's sports. That will end immediately. And we will restore and renovate our nation's once great cities, making them safe, clean, and beautiful again. And that includes our nation's capital, which is a horrible killing field. So many things. They leave from Wisconsin, they go to look at the Washington Monument, they end up getting stabbed, killed, or shot. We will be very soon very proud of our capital, again, Washington, D.C. America is on the cusp of a new golden age, but we will have the courage to seize it. We're going to take it. We're going to make it a current. We're going to bring this into a golden age like never seen before. Remember this, China wants to do it. Japan wants to do it. All of these countries want to do it. We have to produce massive amounts of energy if we're going to produce the new. If you look at some of the things that have been done, and some of the things that we're going to do. But AI needs literally twice the electricity that's available now in our country. Can you imagine? But instead, we're spending places where they recharge electric cars. They built 8 chargers at a certain location toward the Midwest. 8 chargers for $9 billion. Think of them as a tank for filling up your gas. Think of it. They spent $9 billion on 8 chargers, 3 of which didn't work. And if you were going to do this all over our country, this crazy electric mandate, if you're going to do this and by the way, I'm all for electric. They have their application. But if somebody wants to buy a gas-powered car, gasoline-powered car, or a hybrid, they're going to be able to do it. And we're going to make that change on day one. So to conclude, just a few short days ago, my journey with you nearly ended. We know that. And yet, here we are tonight, all gathered together, talking about the future, promise, and a total renewal of a thing we love very much. It's called America. We live in a world of miracles. None of us knows God's plan or where life's adventure will take us. I want to thank Franklin Graham for being here tonight. He's an outstanding man. He wrote me a note recently. I have a lot of respect for him. Sir, I love your storytelling. I think it's great in front of these big rallies. But, sir, please do me one favor. It won't make any difference. Please don't use any foul language. I was a little embarrassed. I said... He said, it won't make any difference. Actually, it does. The story's not quite as good, but I've been very good. The story is not quite as good, to be honest. I've got to have a little talk with Franklin, but he was great. He's a great gentleman. His father was so incredible, Billy Graham. My father used to love taking me to see Billy Graham. My father would take me to see Billy Graham at Yankee Stadium. He had the biggest rallies you've ever seen. He was a good rally guy, too. But he'd get up, and he was a fantastic guy. My father loved Billy Graham. But I love Franklin Graham. I think Franklin's been fantastic, and I'm working so hard to adhere to his note to me. I'm working hard on it, Franklin. But if the events of last Saturday make anything clear, it is that every single moment we have on earth is a gift from God. We have to make the most of every day for the people and for the country that we love. The attacker in Pennsylvania wanted to stop our movement, but the truth is the movement has never been about me. It has always been about you. It's your movement. It's the biggest movement in the history of our country by far. Can't be stopped. It can't be stopped. It has always been about the hardworking, patriotic citizens of America. For too long, our nation has settled for too little. We settled for too little. We've given everything to other nations, to other people. You have been told to lower your expectations and to accept less for your families. I am here tonight with the opposite message. Your expectations are not big enough. They're not big enough. It is time to start expecting and demanding the best leadership in the world, leadership that is bold, dynamic, relentless, and fearless. We can do that. We are Americans. Ambition is our heritage. Greatness is our birthright. But as long as our energies are spent fighting each other, our destiny will remain out of reach, and that's not acceptable. We must instead take that energy and use it to realize our country's true potential and write our own thrilling chapter of the American story. We can do it together. We will unite. We are going to come together, and success will bring us together. It is a story of love, sacrifice, and so many other things. And remember the word, devotion. It's unmatched devotion. Our American ancestors crossed the Delaware, survived the icy winter at Valley Forge, and defeated a mighty empire to establish our cherished republic. They fought so hard, they lost so many. They pushed thousands and thousands of miles across a dangerous frontier, taming the wilderness to build a life and a magnificent home for their family. They packed their families into covered wagons, trekked across hazardous trails, scaled towering mountains, and braved rivers and rapids to stake their claim on the wide-open, new, and very beautiful frontier. When our way of life was threatened, American patriots marched onto the battlefield, raced into enemy strongholds, and stared down death and stared down those enemies to keep alive the flame of freedom. At Yorktown, Gettysburg, and Midway, they joined the roll call of immortal heroes. So many heroes, so many great, great people. And we have to cherish those people. We can't forget those people. We have to cherish those people. And building monuments to those great people is a good thing, not a bad thing. They saved our country. No challenge was too much. No hardship was too great. No enemy was too fierce. Together these patriots soldiered on and endured, and they prevailed because they had faith in each other, faith in their country, and above all, they had faith in their God. Just like our ancestors, we must now come together, rise above past differences. Any disagreements have to be put aside and go forward united as one people, one nation, pledging allegiance to one great, beautiful, I think it's so beautiful, American flag. Tonight I ask for your partnership, for your support, and I am humbly asking for your vote. I want your vote. Going to make our country great again. Every day I will strive to honor the trust you have placed in me, and I will never, ever let you down. I promise that. I will never let you down. To all of the forgotten men and women who have been neglected, abandoned, and left behind, you will be forgotten no longer. We will press forward, and together we will win, win, win. Win, 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 win. Nothing will sway us, nothing will slow us, and no one will ever stop us. No matter what dangers come our way, no matter what obstacles lie in our path, we will keep striving toward our shared and glorious destiny, and we will not fail. We will not fail. Together, we will save this country, we will restore the republic, and we will usher in the rich and wonderful tomorrows that our people so truly deserve. America's future will be bigger, better, bolder, brighter, happier, stronger, freer, greater, and more united than ever before. And quite simply put, we will very quickly make America great again. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Wisconsin. God bless you. God bless you, Wisconsin, and God bless the United States of America, our great country. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
We're going to see you dance.
Okay. There you go. Very good. Yep. He endorses my pillow. You can't complain because in America it's late at night.
Midnight there.
Yeah, that was really interesting. Hearing his speech and hearing all of that. We're just going to leave that on the screen now. But I mean, did you guys have any thoughts about his speech? Generally speaking, we'll keep that up just so we can see.
I think initially he did a very good job of making it emotional. He reached out and touched the hearts, obviously, of Americans and a lot of people with the recent incidents and things that were going on. And I think that was a good move, because it really did make you kind of connect and start to watch. And, particularly when he started talking about family, I mean, I think all of us here value family a lot. And, it really reached me.
Yeah.
Well, look, we have just witnessed history because Donald Trump is now the first person since Franklin Delano Roosevelt to have won the nomination of his party for 3 elections in a row. So that's a big deal. I think I was also surprised. I mean, if most people had been shot at 4 days earlier and had part of their ear removed, they'd still be in shell shock. Trump seems to be remarkably normal, okay? And he seems to have just sort of brushed it off, which is very, very good. It is the most united the Republican Party has been in a very long time. At this moment in 2016, Ted Cruz, the great Ted Cruz, very good senator, might be the president one day. He got up and finished his speech. He so thought Trump wasn't going to win. He got up and he said, I hope people vote their conscience. In other words, I don't care if you vote for Trump or Hillary. But now the party is extremely united. I thought it was very good of Trump to acknowledge the families of the person who died and the other 2 people who are injured. And it's good to hear that they are not critically injured anymore. I like to drill and borders. But before I hand over to Stephen, I would have to say, Mr. Trump, that speech was way too long. And Mr. Trump, this is prime time in America. It was a good opportunity to get your message across to a new audience. It should have been a 15 to 20-minute speech. It went for well over an hour, and it was too long. So that's my comments.
Fair enough. Stephen?
Yeah, totally. A historic moment. Look, I was, it would have been about 40 minutes into the speech, and I wrote down a word, and it was magnificent. And then about 35 minutes later, I was thinking this should have ended sort of 35 minutes ago. Yeah. But having said that, I agree with Elvis that the high point was... it's funny, when he was talking about Corey the surname, I'm just trying to pronounce it, Comparatoni, the man who sadly lost his life at the rally. I was thinking what would be absolutely perfect right now is if there was a moment of silence. And he did it. And then when he went and sort of embraced Corey's uniform, that was just I thought that was the high point. It began brilliantly. He listed his achievements. He listed the current problems. He listed his promises. Nothing too obnoxious throughout. I was glad that he didn't dwell too long on the 2020. I actually think it would have been better if he'd never mentioned it at all. But so nothing really obnoxious. I just think if I could just critique it at one point, at one level, it was just too long. It wasn't too long for the people in the room, But as John said, he should have thought that this is a speech to America, not to the people in this room. I would say let's keep it at about 40 minutes. I mean, probably 25 minutes would be better, but. Basically, there's nothing serious. There's a lot that's really right with this speech. Nothing seriously wrong.
Yep. No, agreed. And again, a lot of uniting communities, family, bringing people together. I think that was a very big message, which is very different to obviously the side of the debate. Gavin Newsom, I believe, is having. Litigation brought against him because of his new laws where schools are not required to contact parents about children's change of gender or things like that, and so that will be interesting to see how that comes along, because that could also affect his possible nomination. If he's got a lawsuit coming towards him, or if it happens and he loses it, that you don't want him running into an election there. And again, it just shows they're the division of the family and breaking down the family unit. Not involving parents is a big thing. Whereas, Trump there with, his family there supporting him, thanking his family, talking about the families who've been impacted, not just at the recent assassination attempt, but throughout the country through what's happened with the economy.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, he didn't play the culture wars too much. I mean, we've got to remember, guys like us who are sort of watch all this stuff religiously, we're really keen on the culture wars, but the things that Trump really hammered were things that just touch every person's life, whether they've even heard of the culture wars or not. Inflation, energy, the economy, the borders, drilling oil, immigration. It was in many ways a non-ideological speech. If Trump can continue in this fashion, if he continue to restrain himself, he could win this election on this path.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, the only thing that got me kind of questioning the result was obviously you've probably heard the Democrats don't want to make it illegal for non-citizens to vote. And so he's obviously made a very big statement. He's going to be deporting illegal immigrants. Could that kind of inspire them to get out there and illegally vote? Because, hey, they're going to be gone soon if he wins. So that was the only thing that kind of crossed my mind during the speech.
Fair comment.
Absolutely. Guys, I'm very conscious of my fellow panelists. I'm sure if you guys are as tired as I am, and I'm the young one on the panel here, you're ready to just call it a night. It's almost been 4 hours, guys. We've been live streaming this. I hope you enjoyed it. I know that many of you guys have been enjoying the previous ones. We are still averaging about 500,000 to 600,000 views an episode across the platforms, despite the censorship and the fact checks and all of that. But if you guys wanted to follow my fellow panelists, I've put all of their X profiles up now. Go please follow them there. That's the best place you can follow them at this stage to get their up-to-date thoughts on everything that's going on. And if you do want to actually support the podcast, we are on Rumble, we're on X, we're on Telegram, all the other ones as well, like YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and all of them. But these are the safe ones to grab me on the Ark or Joel Jammal. And if you scan that QR code there, it'll take you to all the different links that I've been talking about, whether it's the full show, whether it's to purchase the Light newspaper, which is doing really well, and the new edition is coming out next month in August. And if you want to donate, if you want to be a part of the $5 Army cup of coffee army every month, please support the show. It helps keep the lights on, and we will be doing many more streams like this, probably a little bit more on the edge of our seat, like the Democrat convention, with some interesting unknowns as to what's going to happen with the superdelegates around about the 19th, probably the 22nd of August, near the end of it. But I'll be bringing you many more updates on that. In the next couple of weeks, I'll probably be giving you a bit more Aussie news, what's been going on with the fresh produce, the bees, what's been going on with regards to the Anthony Albanese blaming misinformation for the shooting of Trump, Kevin Rudd actually coming to terms with the fact that Trump is probably going to win this thing, and some of the geopolitical implications for that, but also what's happening in economics in Australia. My sources in the Liberal Party are telling me we're leaning more and more to a December early election for Australia at a federal level. And around the corner, we've got local elections and a state election in Queensland in September and October. So in September, we've got the New South Wales local elections with people like Elvis running and John Ruddick, who's actually running a swath of local candidates for the Libertarian Party, which I want to get them back in to talk more about. But there's a lot happening, guys. I'm looking forward to getting back into the Aussie stuff next week. But this week was crazy, the shooting and everything. But please do support the show, share it out, get it out there. It is reaching many people every week. And my fellow panelists, did you guys have any last thoughts before I close off? Anything that we didn't get a chance to say? Or
No, pretty much. I mean, I wanted to say again, like, comment, share. The only way that we can educate people is get the message out there. We're doing our best to help educate people. I'll be grabbing some copies of the Light magazine and passing it on to people that I know. So, little things like that, every little bit helps. So, go out there, spread the message. Let's get our country back on track. I think it's our turn next, and it's always good to be the king.
Awesome.
Well, the last thing I'd like to say, Joel, is, look, I would like to encourage the viewers to pinch themselves, because they are living in the age of Donald Trump. Donald Trump's not going to be a contestant in 4 years' time, and then we're probably just going to get back to regular programming with US presidential elections. Trump's going to be remembered for centuries to come, and it's a great honour. Even if you don't like him, it's a great honour to live in the time of such a huge figure.
Well, since everyone is saying something, I guess I will. And I'll just say we are indeed living in a very historic moment. And you can be passive and just watch it happen, or you can be active, play a role, and actually help history come to get to where it's going. And so I encourage you all to support Joel Jammal, support the alternative media, get involved in politics and be a part of the change.
Hear, hear.
Awesome. Very good. And that is John's call that he has to do very early now, guys. I will see you later. God bless you. Thank you very much. Give this a share, donate, subscribe, everything. Goodbye. Enjoy your weekend. Have a great one.
Well, that was great.